Chapter 142. Hello, I'm Ilya, Ilya said shyly. Yes, I'm Mayu. Then as the school bell rang, the two hurriedly left the rooftop. Then Mayu showed genius-like talent in mathematics, art, home economics, sports, and other aspects. This shocked the group of primary school students and teachers, and even the homeroom teacher, Daikawa Fujimura, went crazy. In the evening, Ilya sat on a small chair in the park with a defeated expression. I say it's about time. Do you need to keep being so depressed? Ruby said. Sai, you're right. It's not a big deal. I just didn't expect geniuses to really exist. Ilya sighed and said. Then Ilya got up and was about to leave. Just as she turned her head, she saw Mayu passing by the park and Wuming, who came to pick her up. Big brother and Mayu. Ilya was a little nervous. Yo, Ilya, why are you alone in the park? Wuming greeted Ilya. Mayu nodded at Ilya and did not say anything. It's nothing. I'm going home now. Ilya touched her head with a blush. She could not say that she was sitting here to relax because of the blow. Then, do you want me to send you home? Wuming said gently. Then I'll have to trouble you, brother Wuming. Ilya smiled shyly. Then Wuming held Mayu's hand and walked on the road with Ilya beside him. As if she could not bear it anymore, Ilya spoke. Big brother, are you also a magician? Ilya asked carefully. Wuming smiled at this. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Ilya to be related to magic, so I didn't tell you my identity back then. Wuming's apology made Ilya even more embarrassed. She hurriedly waved her hand. No, I'm the one who's sorry for prying into other people's privacy. Ruby, who couldn't bear to watch any longer, patted Ilya's head and said resentfully. Why are you apologizing? Ilya blushed and didn't know what to say. It's okay, Ilya. Inquiring about such things in the magic world isn't considered invading one's privacy. You can barely be considered half a magician now. Wuming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Why is it half? Ilya asked in confusion. That's because Ilya is a magical girl. How could she be a magician? Ruby cheered. Shut up. Ilya angrily grabbed the ruby and stuffed it into her school bag. She then looked at Wuming with a red face. Wuming continued, the reason why I said that Ilya is half a magician is because Ilya has just come into contact with magic. There are many things that she doesn't understand. Ilya nodded her little head. She didn't even know about heroic spirits yesterday. If Sapphire didn't explain it to her today, Ilya might not even know about it now. To be honest, it's best for Ilya to be a magical girl. Wuming's tone began to change. How should she say it? In short, it gave Ilya a feeling of joy. How should I say it, Ilya? It's best for you to leave the magic world after you finish reclaiming your rank cards. Then you can peacefully be a primary school student. After all, the magic world has darkness that you can't imagine, Wuming said earnestly. Just as Ilya was stunned by Wuming's words, Wuming's tone changed. However, even if you continue to choose this path, I will still protect you. Wuming's tone was unusually gentle as he stroked Ilya's head. These gentle words and gentle strokes caused Ilya's face to turn red. She looked at Wuming foolishly as if she had fallen into some fantasy. What's wrong, Ilya? Are you all right? Wuming pinched Ilya's little face and asked worriedly. No, I'm fine. Ilya quickly reacted. Her face was red as she waved her hands frantically. We should hurry up and leave. Sarah will be worried, Ilya said. Then Ilya strode in front. After sending Ilya home, Wuming held Mayu's hand and walked on the road. Does brother Wuming like Ilya fair? Mayu suddenly asked. Why do you ask? Wuming looked at Mayu and asked in confusion. Because brother Wuming is very concerned about Ilya fair. Mayu was silent for a while before speaking. Wuming smiled and stroked Mayu's head. Our Mayu can't be envious, right? Mayu's face turned red. She shook her head and said, I'm not. However, no matter how one looked at it, she seemed a little arrogant. That's because Ilya gives me a feeling like Mayu, Wuming said seriously. This time Mayu was confused. My feeling? Looking at the familiar surroundings, Wuming nodded at Mayu. That's right, Mayu. Ilya gives me a feeling like you. Both are holy grails. Mayu's eyes focused. Wuming continued, I once sensed a strange magic power in Ilya's body. I secretly checked Ilya's body and found that there was a seal deep in Ilya's body. Wuming walked to the door of Shuo Yu's residence, pushed open the door and walked in with Mayu. Because I once thought of sealing your holy grail physique, I studied this seal. Wuming sat on the stone bench in the courtyard and let Mayu sit beside him. So, it's not that there's no holy grail war in this world, but that someone stopped the holy grail war from happening. So, Brother Wuming is concerned about Ilya Fair out of sympathy? Mayu said. How can that be? Wuming shook his head with a smile. That's because Ilya is also a cute child. I like children the most. Just like how I like you, Mayu, it's not because you're holy grails that I care about you, but because I simply like humans like you cute children. Then Wuming walked to Mayu and squatted down. So, I didn't choose to take care of you out of sympathy or other reasons, but because we met. Wuming stroked Mayu's head and looked at her eyes that were the same color as his. It's because of such a simple geographical reason that you became my sister and my beloved. Although Wuming's words made Mayu blush, Mayu still listened to Wuming very seriously. How about maintaining a good relationship with Ilya? Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Mayu blushed and nodded. Okay, I'm going to cook. What does Mayu want to eat? Wuming stood up and said. Omelette rice. Mayu said in a low voice. Then make a deluxe special version. Mayu looked at Wuming's back and smiled in a daze. Brother Wuming. Chapter 143. After dinner, Mayu, dressed in a blue-purple magical girl outfit, went to Wuming who was admiring the moon. Are you going, Mayu? Wuming said with his eyes closed while drinking a cup of tea. Although Mayu was a little curious why Brother Wuming closed his eyes while admiring the moon, Mayu nodded. Well, Sister Luvia said that we will meet near the Winterwood City Bridge tonight. Well, be careful, that class card is a bit tricky. Wuming opened his eyes and looked at Mayu. Well, I know, Brother Wuming. Mayu left the Shuasuki house and Wuming, who was sitting on the edge of the house, stood up. Are you worried about Miss Mayu, Master? Kalis Balit on Wuming's head said. Well, that's for sure. You know, now the two mirror realms near the Winterwood City Bridge have been merged, and one of them is a caster class card. Now, Caster should have built a magic workshop. Although not everyone's magic workshop was as crazy as Wuming's magic workshop, he was still able to betray the witch of a Kanzaki. Just the fact that he was a Kanzaki character was something that couldn't be ignored. Kalis still doesn't understand why you want to put the caster class card back in place. Even if it's for training, I don't think Miss Mayu and Miss Ilya have the strength to defeat the other side. Golden Green's dragon horn glowed, and it kept making sounds. Because of this, I have to ensure their safety, and I have to do it without the other side knowing. Wuming walked out of the Shuasuki house, set up a magic barrier, and headed toward the Winterwood City Bridge. You know, I can't stay in this world all the time. I'll let them get some growth so that I can rest assured. Kalis didn't speak, but Kalis always felt that Wuming said to let Mayu grow, but in fact he was more flustered than anyone else. Master, there seems to be a professional term for what you said. I remember it's called Sundara. Wuming, who was walking on the road, slipped and almost fell. Wuming stabilized his body and stroked the dragon horn headdress. This information is wrong, delete it. Yes, Master. Winterwood City Bridge, Rin Enbin and Luvia stood somewhere, waiting for the arrival of Ilya and Mayu. A pink figure came over. Big Sister Ling, Big Sister Luvia. Ilya came over and greeted the two. You're here, Ilya? Rin Enbin replied. That's strange, why is Mayu late? You should know that Mayu is very punctual. Luvia, who had more or less understood Mayu after interacting with her, was a little worried. At this moment a petite figure came over. Sorry I'm late, Mayu said while panting. Because she wanted to spend more time with her brother, Mayu realized that there wasn't enough time, so she hurried over. It's fine, it's not time yet. Luvia looked at the time and said to Mayu. Don't be careless, Ilya, be on guard against both the enemy and Luvia. Rin Enbin said to Luvia. Ilya had a helpless expression. I really hope that you won't provoke us when you quarrel, Ruby said. Mayu, hurry up and deal with it. Remember to involve Rin Enbin while dealing with the enemy, Luvia said elegantly. Apart from the latter half, I understand the rest, Mayu said helplessly. Then I think we should hurry up and retrieve the fourth class card, Rin Enbin said as he looked at Ilya and Ruby. Mayu. Luvia also looked at Mayu and Sapphire. Yes, I understand. Okay. As Ruby and Sapphire chanted an incantation, a magic circle appeared under their feet again. Connect. Following Ilya and Mio's final words, they instantly disappeared from where they stood. Wuming came here and sensed the remnants of magic in the air. You've already entered? Then let's go in, Kalis. Yes, Master. Remember to use the invisibility spell, don't let them see me. Yes, Master. With a flash of light, Wuming also disappeared from where he was. About a dozen seconds later, Ilya, Mayu, and the others who had disappeared earlier reappeared on the spot. They all looked battered and exhausted. It hurts and it's so hot, what is that? Ilya said in shock. It's really bad, we seem to have encountered Castor who has been prepared for a long time. Luvia wiped her face with a handkerchief and said, Castor? A magician? Ilya sighed. Yes, there is no doubt that the opponent is a powerful magician. Ruby also sighed. According to the magic circle and incantation used by the opponent, it can be determined that it is not any kind of magic that exists in modern times. It can be determined that the opponent is using the long-lost kamikaze magic. Sapphire analyzed. That's not the worst, the main thing is that there is a large range of mana-pointing control platform around Castor, so our attacks can't hit her. Rin Enbin pinched his chin and said in distress. I wanted to ask just now, what is that mana-pointing control platform? This kind of new term was somewhat unfamiliar to Ilya, who had just stepped into the world of magicians. That is a defensive platform that can direct the flow of magic. Generally speaking, this kind of control platform is placed in a special place. I didn't expect that the opponent can make such a large piece. Rin Enbin said. According to our judgment, the opponent's mana-pointing control platform can only defend downward, that is to say, as long as we fly into the air, we can attack her. Sapphire said. But this made Rin Enbin and Luvia somewhat distressed. But it is really difficult to let Ilya and Mayu suddenly learn flying magic that they have never learned before. Is that so? Ilya's voice came from behind the two. They saw Ilya floating in the air looking at the two with some excitement. What's going on? Ilya, how did you suddenly learn how to fly? Rin Enbin said. Amazing. Ilya, you actually learned a difficult flying magic in an instant. Ruby said happily. Hey. Don't magical girls know how to fly? Ilya tilted her head and said innocently. Rin Enosaka, on the other hand, was shocked by Ilya's words. Damn it, Mayu, you also fly immediately. Luvia said not to be outdone. After a moment of silence, Mayu said such a sentence. Humans can't fly. Just like Tu was shocked, Luvia was also shocked. Wuming, who had quietly come out, hid behind a tree and looked helplessly at the calm Mayu. As expected of Mayu, you actually think the same as me? Wuming smiled awkwardly. Chapter 144. In the middle of the night, Mayu returned to the Shuayu residence. Did something happen, Mayu? Wuming stood at the door and said to Mayu, who was in a sorry state. Mayu nodded, looking a little depressed. Wuming walked to Mayu, touched her head and said, It's okay, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, Big Brother will help you solve them. Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Mayu also recovered some of her spirit and then said, Brother Wuming, can you teach me how to fly? Of course, how about this, tomorrow morning I'll take you to learn how to fly, how about it? Out of trust in her brother, Mayu quickly nodded. After Mayu took a bath because Wuming saw Mayu's disappointment, under Wuming's care, Mayu fell asleep. Wuming left the room and gently closed the door. Are you really going to teach Miss Mayu how to fly, Master? Kalas complained. After all, although Wuming's talent is high, after all, the magic that Wuming knows is some high-level magic. Thinking back to when Wuming taught Gilgamesh, he guided and taught him, letting him awaken magic abilities on his own. It's not that he was unwilling to give the original 18 Lune to Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh refused at that time. Wuming's face turned red and he coughed awkwardly, then said, Ahem, there are many ways to let Mayu fly, but now is a good time to train Mayu. After all, Mayu can be said to be a genius no matter what she does. Are you saying that because Miss Mayu lost to Miss Ilya in flying magic so she suffered a blow? Kalas asked. Wuming walked to the bedroom, pushed the door open and continued, It's not considered a blow. After all, Mayu is a strong child. She just can't find a clue now and is confused. Mayu's strength is not like that of an ordinary little girl. Although Wuming's teaching in the past 5 years is also crucial, Mayu's strong character is cultivated by herself. In order not to drag my brothers down. This is what Mayu once said. How should I say it? Mayu is a little too much of a believer in science, causing some magic that requires imagination to be unable to be implemented. Just like flying, if a person subconsciously feels that they can't fly, then no matter what, they can't succeed. Then what do you mean? Kalas asked. Let Mayu change to a way that she can accept. Anyway, Mayu's purpose is just to stay in the air. I see. Wuming lay down and put Kalas on the table. Actually, Kalas, you don't have to compliment me in disguise. Kalas did not speak. I don't believe that the purely auxiliary magic gift made by Gemwold Zelik doesn't have extraordinary wisdom. Wuming smiled. Don't think that I'm quite smart usually, in fact, I'm very afraid of using my brain. I know, although I said that I treat you as family, You must not be able to let it go. Kalas was silent. Suddenly being told that you have a fixed master, suddenly being told that you can't change your master, suddenly being told that you must obey your master's orders, suddenly being told that your freedom is forever limited. Wu Ming's tone began to become heavy. That must be quite painful. Kalas continued to be silent. So, if you can, please treat me as a real family, okay, Kalas? Wu Ming's tone changed and said tenderly. I know, master. Kalas replied. Then I'll trouble you a lot in the future, Kalas. Yes. Kalas's voice contained unprecedented emotion. If Kalas was only loyal to her master like a counselor before, then now she was treating him like family. If there was a gap between Wu Ming and Kalas before, then there was no gap between Kalas and Wu Ming now, just like Wu Ming and Meiyu. It was both warm and comforting. After Wu Ming fell asleep, the golden dragon horn shone with a different light. Is this the feeling of love? The next day both Wu Ming and Meiyu woke up early. After eating the breakfast prepared by Wu Ming brought Meiyu to a barren land on Yuanzhang Mountain through a portal. Let's do it here, Meiyu. Wu Ming took a few steps forward and said, Okay. At this moment, Meiyu had already changed into a magical girl's clothes. For some reason, Meiyu was unwilling to transform in front of Wu Ming, just like how Ilya did not want to transform in front of others. It was just that Meiyu was targeting Wu Ming alone. Then Wu Ming tossed a pendant necklace to Meiyu. It was a pendant with a single feather in the shape of a pendant. Brother Wu Ming, what's this? Meiyu looked at Wu Ming in confusion. Wu Ming said, This is a magic tool that allows the wearer to fly. As long as the incantation is chanted, the necklace will allow the wearer to fly for an unlimited amount of time. Unlimited. Meiyu was shocked. I'm afraid this tool can only be created with a magical domain. Meiyu grabbed Sapphire and analyzed. The point is, as long as you wear this necklace, Meiyu, you don't need to learn to fly. These words made Meiyu and Sapphire stunned, but Meiyu reacted and shook her head. Then she said, I don't want to rely on these external forces, I want to learn to fly by myself. Looking at Meiyu's firm eyes, Wu Ming smiled. I knew you would say that. Then Wu Ming began to teach. Meiyu, first of all, you have to know what your ultimate goal is. Wu Ming rarely showed a serious face and looked at Meiyu seriously. The ultimate goal is to defeat Castor and recover the rank card, Meiyu said. Wu Ming nodded and continued to ask, Why do you want to learn to fly? That's because you can't attack Castor without flying to a high altitude, Meiyu said. So, why do you have to learn to fly? Wu Ming smiled and his rare serious face was broken. Hey! Wu Ming's words made Meiyu stunned, and then she thought of something and her face turned red. Brother Wu Ming, thank you very much. Meiyu bowed excitedly. Wu Ming knocked Meiyu's little head and smiled. Little fool, we are a family, you don't need to thank me. Meiyu smiled shyly. Then Wu Ming said, So, you should know how to practice. Well, Brother Wu Ming has helped me a lot, I already know how to achieve the goal of defeating Castor. Meiyu nodded. Then I'll go first, come on Meiyu. Wu Ming said and opened the portal. Well, Brother Wu Ming, goodbye. Meiyu said goodbye to Wu Ming with a rosy face. I'm really looking forward to it, Meiyu. Chapter 145. The next day at night. Ilya, Meiyu, Rin Enbin, and Luvia stood together near the Winterwood City Bridge. Then, only for today, let's temporarily join forces. Rin Enbin said. Oh, although I don't want to admit it, you monkey can really help a little. Luvia said. The two once again confronted each other. Regarding the argument between the two, Ilya and others expressed that they were not interested. Great, Meiyu, we can fight together. Ilya said to Meiyu. Yeah. Meiyu's face was red and she was a little embarrassed. Yesterday, after Wu Ming left, when Meiyu was practicing her method, Ilya appeared nearby. Wu Ming didn't know what happened between the two, but Meiyu was very happy when she came home yesterday. Let's start. With Rin Enbin and Luvia's orders, Ruby and Sapphire jointly launched the magic circle. The red and blue magic circle reflected each other, and the speed was much faster than before. When they escaped from Castor's mirror world, Ruby and Sapphire also jointly cast the magic circle. Otherwise, with the speed of their magic circle, they would have been intercepted by Castor. They disappeared in an instant. Wu Ming appeared again and looked at the scene of Meiyu and Ilya just now. It seems that Meiyu and Ilya's relationship is good. It should be like this. Meiyu is very lacking in friendship. Wu Ming said lightly. So, do you still want to enter the mirror world, master? Kalas asked, but she didn't move at all. Don't you know? Why are you still asking me? Wu Ming laughed. Knowing is knowing, you are still my master after all, etiquette cannot be neglected. Kalis said, and then the golden-green dragon horn moved. Kalis, who had untied the knot in her heart, had become the same as Ruby, Sapphire, and other similar creatures. She no longer stubbornly maintained her previous shape and began to change her shape automatically. Let's go, although I believe that Mayu and the others can overcome Caster Medea, this is the mirror world that is the fusion of two cards. Yes. Subsequently, light flashed beneath Wu Ming's feet as a magic array appeared and enveloped Wu Ming. Inside Caster's mirror world, Mayu and Ilya flew into the air and kept rushing toward Caster's position in the air. Rin and Osaka and Luvia, who stayed on the ground, could only watch helplessly. After all, not to mention whether their attacks could reach Caster's position or not, their magic might not work on Caster. In the air, Ilya looked at Mayu curiously. After all, Mayu was still unable to fly yesterday. She could only rely on magic to compress the pressure in the air to form a temporary stable platform for her to jump, move, and so on. But in Ilya's eyes, Mayu didn't rely on these methods at the moment, but she was really flying. After dodging a magic cannon, Ilya, who was still in a daze, quickly cleared her mind and began to focus on the situation in front of her. Mayu constantly dodged the magic cannons made by Caster and rushed toward Caster's position. Mayu looked at the necklace hanging on her neck and remembered what Wu Ming said to Mayu last night when he entrusted the necklace to her. After Mayu came back from the exercise, Mayu rested for a while and Wu Ming handed it over. Mayu, take this. Wu Ming took the single-piece wing-shaped pendant necklace and looked at Mayu. Brother Wu Ming, what is this? Mayu tilted her head and asked puzzledly. Wu Ming placed the necklace in Mayu's hand and said, tomorrow we'll have to fight with our lives on the line, so it's best to ensure that we can fly safely. This necklace is only a temporary loan to you, so remember to return it. Mayu had already put it on when she came to the Winterwood City Bridge. After all, this was brother's blessing. Mayu held the necklace tightly, and then rushed toward Caster even harder. Because the plan was for Ilya to attack and harass Mayu, Ilya was very close to Caster at the moment. Looking for the right time, Ilya held the ruby and began to gather magic. Scatter bullets, fire. With Ilya's clear voice, a large number of pink magic bullets were fired from the top of the ruby. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mayu, who was close to Caster, took out Lancer's rank card. Rank card Lancer. Mayu, who was about to use Lancer's rank card, found that Caster suddenly disappeared in front of her. Teleportation? Then, Mayu quickly activated the defense facility. Sapphire, convert all magic into physical protection and magic barrier. Yes, master. At the moment when Sapphire completed the defense, as if there was a delay, a huge magic bullet hit Mayu, and Mayu fell on the Winterwood City Bridge in the mirror world, forming a lot of smoke. Mayu. Ilya, Rin Enbin, Luvia, and the others were shocked. I was really careless. As expected of the Witch of Kanagami, teleportation is nothing. Ruby was distressed. Then Mayu walked out of the smoke. Mayu's body was not damaged at all. Her body exuded a little light, which was a sign that the defense facility was activated. Looking at the unscathed Mayu, Ilya and the others were relieved, and then Ilya rushed up again, acting as a bait. Mayu, on the other hand, was glad that he remembered what Wu Ming said yesterday. Mayu, you have to remember the opponent is a magician of Kanagami. She may have super high-level magic like teleportation, so you must be very careful. Wu Ming was worried that Mayu would underestimate the enemy. Although it was a little strange why there was a delay, Mayu didn't have time to think about it. Looking at Ilya, who was still trying to harass Mayu, Mayu shook her head and quickly joined the battlefield. Wu Ming, who was in the shadow, sighed. As expected of Mayu, she reacted in an instant. Kalis complained, isn't it because you used magic to interfere with Caster's casting speed? Wu Ming smiled awkwardly and then said, even without me, Mayu will be fine. Wu Ming was right. Even without Wu Ming's interference, even if the magic cannon hit Mayu, it would not cause any damage to Mayu, who had already activated her defense. The interference was just a subconscious behavior of Wu Ming because he was worried about Mayu. In order to create the conditions for Mayu, Ilya poured her fantasy power into the ruby and launched a large AoE scattershot attack. Taking advantage of the moment when Caster was delayed, Mayu immediately released the long-prepared bombardment. Maximum bombardment. Fire. A huge beam of light went straight to the ground. Several people were relieved in an instant. Just when several people were about to recover Caster's rank card, Caster, who they thought had been defeated, reappeared in the distant sky. Chapter 146. Looking at the somewhat embarrassed caster, everyone panicked. Could it be? Did he use spatial teleportation to escape? Rin Enbin exclaimed in shock. Judging from the level of the magic array, the mirror world would definitely be destroyed. When Mayu saw that, she immediately rushed toward Caster. Wait! Mayu, come back quickly! Luvia shouted. At this moment, Caster was too far away from them. Even Mayu, who was the closest to them, couldn't reach Caster before he released the magic array. Damn it, it's too late, Mayu said through gritted teeth. Mayu, stand on top. Suddenly, Ilya's voice came from behind. Mayu turned around and saw a huge pink magic ball. Mayu instantly understood Ilya's intention. The instant the mana ball arrived behind her, Mayu used her mana to create a platform and stood on it. The force of the magic ball pushed Mayu toward Caster. Rank card Lancer. Mio held the sapphire in one hand and the rank card in the other hand, and said while combining the two. Gay Balg. The scarlet spear penetrated the magic circle and penetrated Caster's chest. Mayu stood not far behind Caster and put away her spear. The three gigantic magic arrays collapsed, transforming into motes of mana that disappeared. Caster also turned into a Caster class card. Mayu picked up the fallen class card. Sapphire said, Class card Caster, recycling successful. Thank you for your hard work, Lady Mayu. Sapphire said with concern. Yes. Mayu didn't say much and simply nodded. Then Mayu looked at Ilya, who was flying toward her. Alicia Field is truly a miraculous person. I've never thought that I could use a magic ball to increase my speed. Sama, I think you and Lady Ilya are very compatible. You should contact Lady Ilya more. After all, the two of you are one. Sapphire said. Mayu nodded as if she agreed. At that moment, Rin Enbin and Luvia, who were quarreling again, stopped. That's strange. Why hasn't the mirror world collapsed after so long? Rin Enbin asked. Luvia also nodded, and then they looked at each other as if they thought of something. Could it be? Ta. Ta. There was a sound of steel touching the ground. Somewhere close to Rin Tasaka and Luvia, a servant wrapped in black mana mist walked over. The black mist made it hard to see her face, but the magic sword in her hand was clearly reflected in the eyes of Rin Enbin and Luvia. There was no doubt that it was the materialization of Saber's class card. Without any hesitation, Saber raised the sword that had accompanied her for her entire life in a fluid motion. A large amount of magic gathered, and then Saber swung her sword, and a powerful black magic shockwave shot toward Rin Enbin and Luvia. Damn it. It's too late. Just when the two of them were in despair, a white mist appeared and offset the black magic shockwave. Heaven Age, resist God. Following the activation of the relic, the white mist rushed towards Saber. Saber quickly blocked with her sword, and the white mist turned into a dragon claw and hit it hard. Boom. Saber was repelled, and then Wuming appeared from the white mist. Looking at the man with blonde hair and a white robe, the two of them asked. Who are you? Rin Enbin and Luvia asked. After all, they didn't know Wuming. Zilik told you about me, right? Wuming turned his head and looked at the two of them with his golden pupils and said. The two of them quickly reacted. Are you the hero spirit that Master said will help us? Rin Enbin exclaimed. But why did you only appear now? Luvia said with some suspicion. The two of them had been in Winterwood City for almost 4 days, but Wuming never contacted them, so it was inevitable that they would be suspected. That's because I don't have to come out at all, but the current situation is not something you can handle, so I came out. After all, Zilik only asked Wuming to take care of the magician who came to collect the class card, not to help them all the time. With that said, Rin Enbin and Luvia felt relieved. Zilik did say that the hero spirit in Winterwood City wouldn't help them all the time and would only take care of them a little. In addition, the two of them were people who didn't like to admit defeat, which was why Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't directly look for Wuming when they came to Winterwood City. Alright, the current enemy isn't something you can handle. Leave the rest to me. Wuming wasn't bragging. If Ruby and Sapphire were still in the hands of Rin Enbin and Luvia, they might be able to contend with Saber. But now Ruby and Sapphire had recognized Ilya and Mayu as their masters. With Ilya and Mayu's current strength, they were far from being able to deal with Saber. After all, she was someone Wuming knew. No, it should be said that Wuming taught her before. Wuming looked at Saber, who walked out of the smoke unscathed, and said lightly, I actually want to fight you. I don't know if this is a curse, Artoria. As if Saber heard him, her figure paused for a moment, and then continued to walk toward Wuming. After all, the servant transformed by the class card only had instincts and didn't have the slightest consciousness. Being able to pause for a moment was considered as being affected by the subconscious mind. And Wuming didn't treat Saber as the real Artoria. She was just a magical amalgamation with Artoria's appearance and ability. Saber raised the blackened holy sword in her hand and pointed it at Wuming. Wuming also took out the holy lance, mythical Yggdrasil. Since magic reduces the damage of the class card transformed into a servant, then let's directly determine the winner with brute force. Finished speaking, Wuming rushed up with a vigorous stride. Saber didn't want to be outdone and followed up with her sword. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of weapons colliding with each other was constantly heard. Wuming and Saber kept changing their positions. In order to avoid affecting Rin Enbin and Luvia behind him, Wuming deliberately led Saber away from here and to the river. On the shore, Rin and Osaka and Luvia fell silent as they watched the chaotic battle between the two of them. Indeed, Saber's ability was not something that the two of them could defeat. Not to mention magic would reduce the damage of Saber, who had magic skills, even more. At this time, Mayu and Ilya, who were attracted by the fire, landed on the ground. Brother Wuming? Chapter 147. Brother Wuming? Mayu was surprised. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya asked in confusion. Do you know this heroic spirit? Rin Enbin asked in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Luvia was confused as well. That's Mayu's older brother. He stayed at our house for a while, Ilya said. He's Mayu's older brother? Rin Enbin and Luvia asked in confusion. Rin Enbin found it strange that the big brother Ilya always talked about was actually a heroic spirit. Luvia also found it strange that Mayu's older brother was a heroic spirit. Speaking of which, was the heroic spirit's daily life so unbelievable? Although his hair color is different from the usual big brother, this is indeed Big Brother, Ilya said. Although Ilya had never seen Wuming in this form, she knew that Wuming wasn't an ordinary person. However, she was still worried about Wuming. After all, from what she knew, Wuming was only a mysterious magician. That's incredible. Mayu's older brother is actually a heroic spirit, Rin Enbin said while rubbing his chin. Big Brother is a heroic spirit? Ilya asked. It seems like Ilya doesn't know anything. Rin Enbin and Luvia thought. Everyone looked at Mayu, but Mayu didn't say anything. She only watched the battle between Wuming and Saber. Then Ilya said, Then, Sister Rin, aren't we going to help Big Brother? Rin Enbin said, How can we help? That's a battle between superior heroic spirits. Even if you have the protection of Ruby and Sapphire, you'll only be heavily injured if you get involved. Rin Enbin's expression was grave. Based on the battle between the two heroic spirits, Rin Enbin, who had some martial arts experience, clearly sensed that both sides weren't simple heroic spirits. Even Luvia had noticed that both sides were not simple. Rin Enbin is right. All we can do now is watch from the sidelines and pray that Mayu's brother can defeat his opponent, Luvia said. Afterward, Ilya stopped talking and watched the battle between Wuming and Saber worriedly with everyone else. Right at that moment, the two of them separated and stood facing each other. Saber raised her black longsword, and a black light began to gather around the blade. Could that be a relic? Rin Enbin panicked. Quick. Mayu, Ilya, we feel like we're far away from here, Luvia said to the two magical girls who were still watching the battle. Is that a precious artifact? Ilya said. That's right, Ilya. Through the detection of the magic power in the atmosphere, Saber's noble artifact has at least reached the A rank. It can instantly break through Mayan Shaolan's defense. In order to avoid being affected, I feel that it's better for us to quickly leave. It was rare for Ruby to become serious. From this, it could be seen how powerful Saber's noble artifact was. Mayu-sama, let's quickly leave too. If we stay here, we'll just be a burden to my brother, Sapphire said. Because she met Wuming every day, Sapphire had a good impression of Wuming. Afterward, Wuming requested her to call him her brother. I understand, Mayu said. At that moment, Wuming's voice was heard. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. The four of them quickly ran into the distance. The scene changed. On the other side, it was the battle between Wuming and Saber. As it was on the surface of the lake, their battle did not cause much damage to the surroundings. With a feint, Wuming used a Lune rune to avoid water and stood on the surface of the water looking at Saber. As expected of the best saber class, plus it's because of you she's even more difficult to deal with. Wu Ming said. Due to the ample supply of mana, the underground spiritual vein, Saber continued to release mana, and the black mana mist continued to accompany Saber. Even in close combat, Wu Ming could only have a slight advantage. At that moment, Saber, who agreed with Wu Ming's words, raised her holy sword, and the light of darkness began to gather. Sure enough, noble artifact is the key to victory. Then Wu Ming waved his hand and shouted at Meiyu and the others standing on the shore, she's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. Rin and Osaka and Luvia, who had already seen it, began to pull Ilya and Meiyu away. After seeing that there were no signs of life around, Wu Ming also directly activated his noble artifact. My Yggdrasil. The white holy spear turned into a liquid, wrapped Wu Ming's right hand, and formed a metal-colored arm guard. Wu Ming's right hand was attached to the water, and a huge amount of mana began to gather around him, and then, it exploded in an instant. It seemed like a long time had passed, but in fact only a few breaths passed, and Saber's black holy sword also gathered the light. Excalibur, Excalibur. Saber's demonic words came out of her mouth, accompanied by a huge black light curtain. In contrast, the huge holy tree was growing wildly. The holy tree's branches frantically emerged from the water, constantly hitting the black light curtain. The black light curtain constantly destroyed the vines and branches, and rushed toward Wu Ming's location. Meiyu and the others, who had almost retreated to a safe area, looked at the huge vines behind them colliding with the black light curtain, and couldn't help but worry. The black light curtain was gradually approaching Wu Ming. Even if the vines grew quite fast, it seemed a little difficult in front of the black light curtain. However, Wu Ming would not confront the holy sword head-on. A large number of vines emerged from the water around Saber in an instant, and in just an instant, they broke through Saber's magical fog and entangled Saber. As if it lost its source, the black light curtain instantly shattered, and countless huge vines rushed toward Saber's direction. In an instant, the river in Winterwood City was covered by green vines. After noticing that Saber had become a class card, Wu Ming stood up. Sure enough, even if it has Artorias power, it's still just a mana block. Just like Wu Ming, at this moment Wu Ming's body was also made of class cards, but Wu Ming had consciousness. This was the difference between Wu Ming and other servants formed by class cards. Controlling the vines to move Saber's class card back, Wu Ming held it in his hand. Wu Ming walked to the shore, looked at Meiyu and the others coming toward him, smiled and waved. Looking at the few people who wanted to say something, Wu Ming said directly, "Anyway, let's get out of here first." Then Kalas, who was on top of Wu Ming's head, said, "Magic circle open." With simple words, a huge magic circle appeared under Wu Ming's and the others' feet, and with a flash of light, they disappeared from the mirror world. Chapter 148. After the mirror world collapsed, Wu Ming and the others appeared near the Winterwood City Bridge in the outside world. It's amazing, when did the master make magic attire again? Ruby looked at the golden-green dragon horn on Wu Ming's head and asked. Sorry, unknown kindred, big sister was a little rude. Sapphire bowed and said apologetically. Golden Green flew down from Wu Ming's head and said to the two wands, "It's okay, my name is Golden Green, Kalas Bell. It's a support magic attire specially made by Master Zelik for Master, please take care of me." Then the dragon horn on the head made a human-like bow. "Ah, so it's Goldie, I'm Ruby, Ruby, this is my sister Sapphire, Sephia, please take care of me." Ruby said. "Big sister has troubled you, please take care of me," Sapphire said. Taking advantage of the three artificial elves' conversation, Wu Ming also began to talk. Meiyu looked at Wu Ming with a puzzled expression and said, "What? Why is brother Wu Ming here?" Looking at Meiyu's puzzled expression, Wu Ming touched Meiyu's head. "Just think of me as a stupid big brother who wants you to grow but is worried about you." "Sorry, Meiyu," Wu Ming said apologetically. "No, brother Wu Ming, you don't have to apologize. If it wasn't for you this time, we might have all been killed in the mirror world." Meiyu shook her head and said. Meiyu didn't mean to blame Wu Ming. Rather, Meiyu was secretly happy. Wu Ming worried about her meant that Wu Ming cared about her, which made Meiyu happy. That big brother. What about me?" Ilya asked weakly with a red face. Wu Ming smiled and patted Ilya's head. "Of course I care about you too. Ilya and Meiyu are my younger sisters. How can an elder brother not care for his younger sisters?" Wu Ming's words made Ilya somewhat happy and she smiled sweetly. "Speaking of which," Rin and Osaka said, That class card hasn't been assigned yet. Rin Enbin looked at Wuming with a fawning expression. You barbaric monkey, why would the Honorable Lord Heroic Spirit give you a class card? Luvia taunted. Damn it. Can't you just keep your mouth shut? Haven't you been tired enough from this battle? Rin Enbin glared at Luvia, his face filled with displeasure. Both Ilya and Mayu had helpless expressions. After all, neither of them would have any objections if the class card was given to Ilya or Mayu. Compared to Rin Enbin and Luvia, who didn't like each other, Ilya and Mayu's relationship was quite good. Wuming then remembered that he still had the class card in his hand. Wuming looked at the saber class card, then at Rin Enbin and Luvia, then at Ilya and Mayu. Then Wuming made a decision. Then let's use the simplest rock-paper-scissors game to decide who to give this class card to. Ha! Rin Enbin let out a strange cry. Luvia also frowned. It seemed that the two of them couldn't accept this method. I think this method is not bad. Ilya touched her small face and looked at Rin Enbin and Luvia cautiously. In the end, Rin Enbin and Luvia sighed and sent out Ilya and Mayu to decide the winner of the class card. It was a best-of-3 game. In the end, under Rin Enbin's smug expression and Luvia's resentful expression, Ilya defeated Mayu with a score of 3-2 and received the saber class card. Ilya carefully put away the job class card. No matter what, this class card was given to her by her big brother. She had to keep it well. Although she didn't care who the class card belonged to, seeing Ilya's happy expression after receiving the class card, Mayu was a bit jealous. At this time, Wuming patted Mayu's head and said, "When we go back, I'll make you omelette rice," Wuming's gentle voice sounded. Mayu blushed and nodded. Although we still have a lot of questions, it's already very late. Let's wait until tomorrow to ask, Rin Enbin said. A wise decision. Then come to my house tomorrow, Wuming said. After discussing, Rin Enbin and Luvia left first. Wuming, Mayu and Ilya stayed behind. That was what Rin Enbin and Luvia said. Aren't you Ilya's big brother? Then I'll have to trouble you to send her home. You're Mayu's big brother. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Remember to send Mayu home safely. Wuming felt helpless, but he didn't dislike it. As Tuskahar said, she didn't dislike straightforward people, and Wuming was the same. The fact that they could treat him with a normal attitude after knowing that he was a servant of a hero spirit's clone was enough to show their temperament. Wuming recalled Kalas and put Kalas back on Wuming's head. The ruby and sapphire returned to Ilya and Mayu's hands. Let's go, Ilya. Mayu and I will send you home. Wuming held Mayu and Ilya's hands and began to walk toward Ilya's house. Wuming didn't like to use the portal anymore. Now he liked to walk and enjoy everything around him. Unless there was an emergency or something important, Wuming wouldn't open the portal. On the way, Ilya carefully held Wuming's hand. I feel that Big Brother is warmer than Big Brother's hand. Ilya couldn't help but compare Shiro Amiya and Wuming and put the scales on Wuming's side. Wuming, who didn't have the ability to read minds, naturally didn't know what Ilya was thinking. However, that didn't prevent Wuming from seeing Ilya's restraint. Then Wuming spoke. Ilya, how do you feel today? What do you mean, how do I feel? Ilya reacted and asked in a panic. Wuming smiled lightly. The cooperation with Mayu, the blow that killed Castor, was quite good. Speaking of this matter, Mayu reacted. Mayu asked, why did Ilya choose that way? Then Ilya smiled and said, because I believe in Mayu. Mayu froze for a moment, then her face turned red. You guys still have a lot of difficulties to go through. You should know that we've only recovered 5 class cards. What's left is the most secretive assassin class card and the most violent berserker. Don't be careless. Silent reminded. Big Brother is right. Sapphire said, today if it weren't for Big Brother here, we would probably all be killed in the mirror world. It's really lucky. Speaking of which, Mayu's brother is really strong. He can even defeat Saber. Ruby flew beside Wuming and said, it can only be said that the other party only has a mana block. It doesn't take much effort to deal with this kind of thing. If it really is a servant, the outcome is not certain. Wuming explained. Speaking of which, Ilya began to ask, where did Big Brother and Mayu live before? When this sentence came out, Mayu's expression became nostalgic. Chapter 149. After Ilya said those words, the atmosphere changed. How should she put it? The atmosphere at the scene gave Ilya the feeling that she had said something wrong. At that moment, Wuming said, Ilya, I won't answer this question. If there's a chance, you don't need to know this now. Ilya nodded as if she understood. After sending Ilya home, In order to avoid being discovered by her family, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. Then after saying goodbye to Ilya, Wuming directly brought Meiyu back to the Shuayu mansion through the teleportation door. Seeing that Meiyu was not calm, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. "It's okay, Meiyu. I'll take care of everything." Wuming comforted Meiyu. "No, brother Wuming, let us take care of it together. I have the ability now." Meiyu looked at Wuming with a determined face. Wuming was stunned, then smiled. Stroking Meiyu's head, Wuming said, "I know. Go to sleep first. Collect the class cards first, then think about other things. After that, I'll collect the class cards with you." Meiyu nodded obediently. After Meiyu fell asleep, Wuming came out of the house. "Then Master, are you going to collect the class cards?" Kalis asked as the golden-green dragon horn flashed. "There are only 2 class cards left. Apart from Assassin Meiyu and Ilya, they can't deal with Berserker." Wuming continued, "They were almost wiped out when facing Saber, not to mention Berserker who sacrificed his rationality greatly increased." "Then do you need to train Meiyu and Ilya?" Kalis asked. Wuming thought for a moment, then said, "You can do a small amount of training first, and then do a large amount of special training after you collect all the rank cards." "Yes, Master." Wuming sat in the courtyard, looked at the moon and fell into deep thought. The next day, after Wuming sent Meiyu to school, Wuming took advantage of the time when he was back and went to a coffee shop. Walking into the coffee shop, Wuming ordered a cup of coffee. As if he was waiting for someone, Wuming sat down and drank leisurely. A moment later, Rin Enbin ran in, panting. Rin and Osaka ordered a cup of coffee and sat down. "Phew, I'm not late, am I?" Rin Enbin said. Because he ran over, his face was very red. Wuming shook his head and smiled. "It doesn't matter if I'm late. After all, I have plenty of time." At this time, Livia casually walked into the coffee shop, elegantly ordered a cup of coffee, walked to Rin Enbin's side, sat down and drank leisurely. Although the two of them didn't like each other, they were facing a heroic spirit. When they had a common goal, the two of them could still work together. The two of them calmed down and looked at Wuming. "Okay, now it's time to talk about your problem," Rin Enbin said. "I have a rank card," Wuming suddenly said. "What?" Rin Enbin and Livia exclaimed in shock. The sudden voice caused everyone in the coffee shop to look over. Rin Enbin and Livia looked at the others with an apologetic smile. Then Rin Enbin and Livia calmed down and looked at Wuming again. "You have a rank card? What's going on?" Livia asked. "Yes, aren't there only 7 rank cards? Now, Leyline shows that there are 2 remaining cards that haven't been recycled." Rin Enbin also asked. Wuming calmly took a sip of coffee, then said, "There are more than 7 rank cards and I have a self-conscious rank card. Before you came to Winterwood City, the previous rank card recycler entered my mirror world and wanted to recycle me, but she didn't succeed. After that, I reached an agreement with Zelik and I stayed in Winterwood City." Although Wuming said his origin, Wuming hid a lot of things. "So, can you tell us what your rank is?" Rin Enbin asked, but he seemed to be very careful. After all, this was also considered as information gathering. "Caster," Wuming said directly without hesitation. "Caster?" Rin Enbin and Livia repeated in a strange way. Rin Enbin and Livia thought that Wuming was a lancer. After all, last night, Wuming used a white spear to fight against Saber, who was known as the best rank, and he slightly suppressed Saber. Such an existence turned out to be a caster. "I don't need to hide it from you. The reason why I hid it from the Magic Association is that I hate trouble," Wuming said. Rin Enbin and Livia weren't stupid enough to ask, "Aren't you afraid that we will spread your existence?" The other party was a heroic spirit's clone servant, and he was also a caster who was good at magic. The two of them didn't think that someone who could fight against Saber didn't know magic. Moreover, the other party was a caster, maybe his magic was better than his martial arts. "I won't ask about the matter between you and Meiyu, I just want to know if you can really love Meiyu," Livia asked. Wuming smiled at this as if he was ridiculing her, but also as if he was helpless. "If even I don't love Meiyu, then no one in this world will love her." "Is that so? I understand." Livia heard the feelings in Wuming's words, which wasn't something that a hypocrite like him could say. Then Rin Enbin also began to ask, "I won't ask about your relationship with Ilya, I just want to know if you will continue to help us recover the rank cards." Rin Enbin said. "Of course, the next 2 rank cards are a bit too disadvantageous for you, I will be responsible for assisting you," Wuming replied. "Indeed, Assassin and Berserker are indeed very disadvantageous for us now," Livia analyzed. "Assassin who specializes in assassination, Berserker who sacrifices his rationality to increase his attributes. Why are these servants so difficult to deal with? Rin Enbin complained. Moreover, the mirror world will shrink due to the continuous recovery of rank cards. If Berserker is the last to be recovered, then the mirror world is likely to become abnormally narrow. If Assassin is the last to be recovered, then it will be advantageous. Then that's it for now. I will find time to train Mayu and Ilya. After drinking the last sip of coffee, Wu Ming left the coffee shop. Livia also finished her coffee, put down the cup, and then very elegantly said to Rin Enbin, "Then I will also leave first, Rin Enbin. I don't want to continue to see your face." Rin Enbin angrily looked at Livia leaving the coffee shop, regardless of the temperature of the coffee, and finished it in one gulp. "Really, do I like to see your face that much?" Rin Enbin said. "Waiter, the bill." Rin Enbin said. "Hello, this is the bill for the three of you, please take a look." The waiter handed a bill to Rin Enbin. Then Rin Enbin's expression was painful as he paid the bill. Chapter 150. In the afternoon, Wu Ming arrived at the entrance of Sui Kun Garden Academy's primary school and waited quietly. There were parents, older brothers and sisters all around waiting for school to end. After waiting for a while, the bell rang and the originally quiet school became lively. Primary school students walked out one after another. After waiting for a while, Mayu and Ilya walked out. As Wu Ming had told Mayu to bring Ilya over after school, Ilya, who originally wasn't going the same way as Mayu, walked together with Mayu. "Brother Wu Ming," Mayu called out to Wu Ming and quickened her pace. "Big brother?" Ilya waved her hand and also quickened her pace. "Mayu, Ilya, how was it? Did you have fun today?" Wu Ming crouched down and asked the two. I had a home economics class today. I specially prepared a cake for brother Wu Ming," Mayu said as she raised the small box in her hand and showed it to Wu Ming. "Then I have to give it a good try. Mayo's cooking will definitely be very delicious," Wu Ming said with a smile. Ilya was not to be outdone. She raised the box in her hand and said, I also made it. Although it might not look as good as Mayo's, the taste won't be bad either." Seeing Ilya's flushed face due to excitement, Wu Ming and Mayu couldn't help but smile. "Then Ilya, did you have a good class?" Wu Ming asked. Hey, I fell asleep in class today. It was Mayu who woke me up." Ilya rubbed her head in embarrassment and said with a smile. Wu Ming stroked Ilya's head and said gently, "It's a little too much for Ilya to sleep after midnight. It's normal to sleep during the day, but you can't fall behind in your homework." However, the two of them didn't notice that there were 4 people watching the conversation between Wu Ming, Mayu, and Ilya in a corner not far behind them. As expected, Ilya and Mayo's abnormal behavior today is because of that handsome guy, a mature girl with green pigtails, Kurihara Narika said. "That might be Mayo's older brother. I've never heard of Ilya having an older brother like that." Kei-hwa, the girl with short black hair, Gue Mimi said. "But there's no way to explain Ilya's abnormality. Beautiful." The pink twin-tailed Nana Moriyama squinted her eyes and said, "Speaking of which, why are we hiding here? Can't we just go over and say hello?" Yujinza Longzi, the energetic girl with yellow hair and 2 buns, idiot, said. Kurihara Yorihana punched Yujinza Ryuko. "It hurts. What are you doing, Kei-hwa?" Yujinza Ryuko said with tears in his eyes as he held his head. "You idiot, we're here to follow Ilya and Mayu. How can we show ourselves?" That's right. Also, we're following them for Ilya and Mayo's happiness," Nana Moriyama said. However, they didn't know that Wu Ming had already discovered them. "Mayu, Ilya, those over there are your classmates, right?" Wu Ming faintly pointed at the corner where the 4 of them were hiding. Ilya and Mayu turned to look. As expected, it was their classmates. "It's them?" Mayu said in surprise. It's Ryuko and the others." Then Ilya waved her hand and shouted at the people hiding in the corner. Now it was awkward. The 3 of them walked out in embarrassment. Only Yujinza Ryuko casually greeted Mayu and Ilya. "Yo, Ilya, Mayu." Then Ilya asked in confusion, "What are you doing hiding there?" "Where?" Yujinza Ryuko was about to tell the truth when Kurihara Yorihana and the others covered his mouth. "We're playing a game with others," Nana Moriyama said with a smile. Yes. Playing a game. Kurihara Yorihana and Gue Mimi agreed. Although she was still curious about their behavior, Ilya didn't pursue it too much. As for Mayu, when they were discovered by Wu Ming, she had already seen through their intentions. "By the way, is this Mayo's brother?" the gentle Gue Mimi asked. Just as Ilya was about to introduce Wuming, Wuming spoke first. You're Mayu and Ilya's friends, right? I'm Mayo's brother, Shuayu Wuming. Thank you for your hard work. If there's anything wrong with my sister, please forgive her, Wuming said with unusual gentleness. So gentle. Kurihara Urahana, Nana Moriyama, and Gue Mimi exclaimed. So cool. Yu Jinza Ryuko said with starry eyes. Only the heavens knew why she thought that the gentle Wuming was cool. Kurihara Urahana pressed Yu Jinza Ryuko down and looked at Wuming apologetically. Are you going home? If you don't mind, let's go together. Wuming's smiling face struck the few of them, causing those who originally wanted to refuse to nod their heads as if they were possessed by gods and gods. Wuming had told Sila in advance yesterday that he wanted to bring Ilya to stay at his house for a night and accompany Mayu. Hence, Ilya, Wuming, and Mayu walked on the road to the Shuayu mansion. Coincidentally, the four of their houses could be reached from this road. Hence, the following situation was created. Wuming held Mayu's hand while Ilya followed beside him. Yujinza Ryuko and the other three followed behind them. Ilya kept chatting with Wuming. Mayu would say something from time to time. Gradually, the four people behind Wuming stopped talking and looked at this scene. After a few minutes, Nana Moriyama said, By the way, what's the relationship between Ilya and brother Wuming? My relationship with big brother? The sudden question stunned Ilya. She stopped and the others also stopped. Wuming replied, Actually, Ilya's adoptive brother Shiro Amiya and I are adoptive brothers. Oh, isn't that big brother's big brother? Yu Jinza Ryuko shouted. He is both Mayu's big brother and Ilya's big brother. What a strange relationship. Kurihara Takika pushed up her glasses and said. It can be considered so. Ilya said somewhat unnaturally. Then, does Ilya like big brother more or big brother's big brother more? Nana Moriyama still had a smile on her face. But Wuming seemed to see the word, conspiracy, on her face. AI. Ilya shouted in panic, her face instantly turning red. You and brother Wuming are so happy. Could it be that Ilya has fallen in love with big brother's big brother and Mayo's big brother? Ilya's face instantly turned red. Her eyes turned into circles and she fainted. Ilya. Everyone's exclamation reached the sky. Chapter 151. After a while, Yujinza, Longzi, and the other three left one after another because they had reached a place where they needed to turn. Wuming and Mayu walked on the road, while Ilya was carried on Wuming's back. Her face was red with embarrassment. Previously, Ilya, who had a weak tolerance, had fainted from Nanao Tortoise Moriyama's words. Wuming had no choice but to carry her on his back. Ruby and Sapphire flew out from Ilya's and Mayo's school bags and floated in the air. I didn't expect Ilya to be so pure. You can't take it after being said a few words? Although love is also a magical girl's right, it's obvious that you're not qualified, Ilya, Ruby said in a strange tone. Ugh. Ilya, who had long since woken up, buried her head on Wuming's back. Ilya, who was already extremely embarrassed, became even more ashamed after hearing Ruby's ridicule. Please have mercy on your words, sister, Sapphire said from the side. Mayu suddenly said, It seems that Ilya likes brother Wuming very much. Looking at Mayu who was looking ahead, Wuming used one hand to drag Ilya and freed one hand to casually stroke Mayu's head. What, are you jealous? Wuming teased. No. Mayu turned her slightly red face away and said in an unnatural tone. Is that so? What a pity. I still want to carry you next time. In that case, forget it, Wuming said with a smile. Mayu instantly turned her head away and looked at Wuming with her red little face. Haha, I'm just kidding. I'll carry you next time. Wuming laughed loudly. Big brother and Mayu have such a good relationship. Ilya, who was lying on Wuming and watching the interaction between the siblings, said, Are you jealous too, Ilya? Wuming turned to Ilya. That's not it. I was just saying. Magical girls have to face their own hearts, Ilya, Ruby teased again. You are very annoying, Ruby. Ilya's eyes were filled with tears as she waved her arm, wanting to hit the Ruby. Wuming hurriedly comforted Ilya when he sensed her shaking on his back. Calm down, Ilya. Then, because of Ilya's request, Wuming put her down from his back. Then, as if to eliminate the awkwardness between the two of them, Wuming began to change the topic and began to talk about the two of them today. As magical girls, the two of you are qualified. However, when facing powerful enemies, the two of you still have flaws, Wuming said. Sensing the change in the atmosphere, Ilya and Mayu became serious. Especially when encountering unexpected situations, Mayo's performance is much better than Ilya's. After hearing Wuming's words, Ilya subconsciously lowered her head. Wuming patted Ilya's head comfortingly. But there was nothing that could be done about it. After all, Mayu came into contact with magic after being adopted by Wuming. After so many years of influence, Mayu was much more mature than Ilya in all aspects. And Ilya was only a 10-year-old elementary school student. A few days ago, Ilya was even an ordinary person without any foundation or knowledge of magic. Compared to the others, Ilya could be said to have done a great job. But this was far from enough, including Mayu. So, today I will give the two of you some training. Wuming looked at the two of them and said solemnly. The two of them also straightened their bodies and looked at Wuming solemnly. At this moment, Wuming brought Ilya and Mayu to the Shuayu residence. I've already arranged a virtual space specially used for training. The two of you will be trained by Kalas and me in turn. As if responding to Wuming's words, the dragon horns on Wuming's head appeared and shone. Please give me your guidance, Ms. Ilya, Ms. Mayu. Please give me your guidance, Kalas, Ms. Ilya and Mayu replied. Then Wuming opened the door to the virtual space, and a blue space door full of technological feeling appeared at the side. There's no time to lose. Let's begin. Ilya and Mayu walked into the space door and so did Wuming. What entered their eyes was a blue sci-fi virtual space. After entering, Wuming first changed the background of the space to the wilderness. Then Wuming had Ilya and Mayu transform. Then he began to teach the two of them. Because you have rubies and sapphires, you don't need to worry about the supply of magic power. Thus, what you need to do is to control the precision of the magic power used when releasing magic bullets. Wuming said in all seriousness. Mayu is a bit better. As for Ilya, a lot of the magic power consumed when releasing magic bullets is dissipated in the air due to her improficiency. Ilya and Mayu were lost in thought as they recalled. So, you need to control the output of magic power more precisely and use less magic power to release more powerful magic bullets. Take Ling and Luvia for example. If the two of them transform, the magic bullets they release will be much more powerful than yours. Then, Wuming concealed the method of controlling magic power for Mayu and Ilya, and the two of them began to practice. It had to be said that Ilya and Mayu were extremely talented. In just a few hours, the two of them realized what Wuming said about using less magic power to achieve greater results. Then, let's begin the training of cooperation. After saying that, the Kalas above Wuming's head left Wuming and flew into the air. Next I'll train the two of you. I'll use the virtual enemies in this space to attack the two of you. After saying that, the virtual enemy rider Medusa that Mayu had killed with Gibalg appeared. Ilya and Mayu were somewhat puzzled as to why Kalas would project an enemy that had already been defeated. Don't underestimate Ryder. If it weren't for the fact that she was releasing her noble artifact at that time, Mayu wouldn't have had the chance to get close to her. Then, as if responding to Wuming's words, Rider Medusa appeared in front of the two of them but did not attack. Then, the two of them instantly acted as if they were facing a great enemy and no longer underestimated each other. Wuming nodded with a smile and left the virtual space. Before leaving, Wuming said to Ilya and Mayu, "Do your best. I'll make delicious food and wait for you in the outside world." As if receiving a large number of buffs, Ilya and Mayu summoned their fighting spirit. At this age where one was unwilling to admit defeat, even Mayu would not surrender to an enemy that she had already defeated. The training began. Wuming walked out of the space. Seeing that it was not too late, he began to prepare the food. Chapter 152. When Wuming was almost done with the meal, Mayu and Ilya walked out of the virtual space. The two of them were in a sorry state and were panting. Kalas flew to Wuming's head and said, "Master, the training is complete." "Thank you for your hard work, Kalas," Wuming said. Then Wuming looked at Ilya and Mayu. "How is it? Do you have any thoughts?" After saying that, Ilya said with a mournful expression, "I don't feel good at all. Why is it that after defeating one enemy several more will appear and they're all different enemies? There are even monsters that I've never seen before." Hearing Ilya's complaints, Wuming smiled awkwardly. Then Wuming quietly asked Kalas, "Didn't you lighten the training, Kalas?" "I set up the limit training according to Miss Ilya and Miss Mayo's current strength, Master," Kalas said calmly. "That's good too. Sweat more during normal times and bleed less during wartime." Then Wuming patted Ilya's head and said, "All right, Ilya, hurry up and clean up your body. I've already made delicious food. If you don't eat it, it'll get cold." That's right, that's right. Ilya, look at Mayu. Why are you still complaining? Ruby complained. Ilya looked at Mayu, who did not complain, and sighed. Mayu is really strong. She doesn't miss me at all. Only then did Ilya realize how perfect Mayu was. Be it mathematics, art, housekeeping, or sports in school, she was perfect. She was a perfect superhuman. Moreover, she was much more mature and stable in combat than her. Ilya could not help but think that if Big Brother did not appear when Saber appeared, not to mention Mayu, she might. No, she would definitely panic. After hearing Ilya's words, Mayu shook her head and said, "It's not like that, Ilya. I also envy Ilya. She has an ordinary life and can go to school happily every day. She has friends who care about her. I'm really envious." Seeing Mayu like this, Ilya was at a loss. Then she reacted and held Mayu's hand. "Mayu, you have everything now. You have to be happy." Mayu looked at Ilya's smiling face, then looked at Wu Ming, who was smiling at him. The corners of Mayu's mouth curled up, then he nodded heavily. "Okay. All right, the food is really getting cold," Wu Ming said. "Ah, Big Brother's delicious food, I'm coming." Wait, Ilya." Seeing Ilya pulling the flustered Mayu into the house, Wu Ming helplessly smiled and shook his head. After eating dinner and resting for a while, Wu Ming let Mayu and Ilya go to sleep. "After all, you have undergone special training and will have to retrieve your class cards later. It's better to sleep first," Wu Ming said. Because the virtual space set up by Wu Ming could control the time, it looked like Mayu and Ilya had trained for a few hours, but in fact they had trained for 3 times the time in the outside world. "Then, let's first prepare the things to deal with Assassin," Wu Ming said to Kalas. "Yes, master." The large-scale detection magic circle is beginning to be established. After answering, Kalas began to emit light. Kalas was establishing a mobile magic circle that could detect with her as the center. For Assassin, who had her aura blocked, even if she couldn't discover her accurately, she could still detect the general location. As for why they didn't prepare to deal with Berserker, it was because Wu Ming could create Enkidu. Although there was a time limit, Wu Ming's magic supply was enough to support killing Berserker. Soon it was close to dawn. Wu Ming woke Mayu and Ilya up. After the two were awake for a moment, Wu Ming directly opened the teleportation door. Wu Ming brought the two to a forest outside Winterwood City. As soon as they walked out of the teleportation door, Wu Ming heard a complaint. "Seriously, you guys are too slow. Did you calculate the time?" Rin Dosaka said. "How rude of us to make the ladies wait," Luvia also said. "Well, even if we came early, we could only wait. Besides, Ilya and Mayu have undergone a qualitative change," Wu Ming said with a smile. "Is that so? To be able to be trained by you, I think Ilya and Mayu shouldn't be weak now," Luvia said. Then in the early morning, Kalas, Ruby, and Sapphire activated the teleportation magic circle. In an instant they disappeared from where they stood. "World connection complete," Kalas said. They appeared in the mirror world. Looking at the dark, empty forest, Rin Enbin said, "No enemies? What's going on?" Wu Ming frowned. Suddenly, Wu Ming pulled out his spear from the golden ripples and stabbed at Ilya. Ilya froze in place. It was obvious that she hadn't reacted yet. "Wait. What are you doing?" Rin Dosaka and Luvia exclaimed. Bam. Wu Ming's spear deflected a throwing knife and made a sound of metal colliding. The knife flashing with purple light fell to the ground. Wu Ming frowned and said, "Poison?" Then Wu Ming swung his spear and looked around. He said to Ilya and the others, "Be careful, it's Assassin this time." Rin Dosaka and Luvia, who had just calmed down, panicked again. After all, an invisible enemy was the scariest. Mayu patted Ilya's back and comforted her. "Are you okay, Ilya?" Ilya finally reacted and looked at the knife on the ground with lingering fear. She shook her head and said, "I'm fine." Then Ilya looked at Wu Ming, who was looking around with a serious expression. "Big Brother?" After all, it was a class card incarnation without intelligence. Wearing black clothes and a skull mask, Assassin walked out of the forest. "Wait, what's going on?" Rin Dosaka couldn't help but shout. Assassins kept walking out of the forest, one after another. Clones? Wu Ming immediately determined the abnormality in the number of opponents. Wu Ming used his naked eye to estimate that there were about 50 of them. Wu Ming immediately let Kalas detect. After detecting the abnormality in the opponent's magic power, Wu Ming said, "Don't be afraid. The opponent is a physical clone. Although it's a clone, its strength has greatly decreased. Moreover, as long as we find the real one and kill it, the other clones will also disappear." At the same time, he also patted Ilya's head, who had lost her fighting spirit. "It's okay, Ilya. I'm here." "Okay." Ilya looked at Wuming and finally nodded heavily. At this moment, the assassins charged forward. Chapter 153. The moment the other party rushed forward, Wu Ming said a few words and rushed forward as well. "Take care of yourself." Wu Ming dashed into the assassin group and started a massacre. None of them could withstand Wu Ming's attack. Wu Ming did not win in terms of strength but in terms of technique. Wu Ming, who did not have high stamina, attacked assassin with a speed and technique that they could not react to. Rin Enbin and Luvia stood back to back with gems in their fingers as they fired at the assassin group that was surrounding them. Ilya flew into the sky. As Meiyu had returned the flight pendant, Meiyu was using her own method to stand in the sky. The two of them continued to fire magic bullets at the assassin group. The two of them had completed the special training, and the magic bullets that they fired were enough to destroy the assassin's clones in one hit. As time passed, the crowd noticed that the number of assassin group did not decrease. Wu Ming also noticed the problem. Therefore, Wu Ming asked Kalas, "Kalas, can you detect which one is the real body of the enemy?" 6 o'clock, 110 meters away. After hearing Kalas's words, Wu Ming immediately looked at the 6 o'clock direction. There was a woman with long purple hair and a skull mask standing there. Wu Ming held a spear in his hand and activated his relic. Holy Yggdrasil. Wu Ming used his relic to activate Yggdrasil and charged towards the purple-haired woman with a spear that pierced through everything. The godly spear pierced through assassin, and the sound of flesh being pierced through could be heard as it pierced through the ground. It was as if the pause button had been pressed as the other assassin stopped moving. The assassin that was pierced through by Wu Ming's relic turned into a card, and the other assassin clones disappeared. Wu Ming extended his hand and Yggdrasil returned to his hand. Wu Ming walked up to the assassin card and picked it up. Then Wu Ming turned to the others. "Let's go." Rin and Osaka and the others were dumbfounded. After leaving the mirror world, Wu Ming still used the old method of rock paper scissors. In the end, Meiyu defeated Ilya in 2 out of 3 rounds and obtained the right to keep this assassin card. "Since there's only one card left, let's take a break," Wu Ming said. Since Wu Ming had taken back the more difficult saber and assassin cards, Wu Ming still had some influence, so Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't say anything. After all, Zelik had given them 2 weeks and 1 week had not passed yet. Actually, Wu Ming had another idea for letting Meiyu and Ilya rest. The mirror world would continue to shrink as the profession cards were taken back. Now that there was only one profession card left, its mirror world would definitely not be large. Most importantly, the last class card was a Berserker class card. Silent Wonder didn't have the confidence to bring Ilya and the others to retrieve the Berserker class card when even Saber's team could be wiped out. Even if Meiyu and Ilya had accepted and completed the special training, Wu Ming didn't dare to be careless. Moreover, Wu Ming had a special feeling. It was like a natural enemy, just like the black mud that Julian used before. And the location of that special feeling happened to be the Berserker profession card's mirror world. Therefore, Wu Ming decided to take back the profession card alone. After all, if Meiyu and others knew that Wu Ming wanted to take back the profession card by himself, not to mention Ilya, Meiyu would definitely not agree. The next day, while Meiyu and Ilya were going to school, Wu Ming came to a building. Walking to the top of the building, Wu Ming said to Kalas while there was no one around, "Kalas, try to connect to the mirror world." Yes. The mirror world was generally entered in the early morning because the channel to enter the mirror world at other times was unstable. Only in the early morning the channel was the most stable. Wu Ming also entered the mirror world when Castor first appeared. Because it was in the middle of the night, the channel to the mirror world was only a little unstable, and it didn't affect him at all. But now it was daytime. It would be difficult to enter the mirror world. If it was Ilya and others, they might not be able to find the channel to enter the mirror world. However, if he let Kalas, who was a full-time assistant, do this, then it would be a success. "Master, the channel is successfully connected, and the stability of the channel has been determined," Kalas said. "Let's go in directly." Wu Ming said. Yes. In an instant, a magic array appeared under Wu Ming's feet. The magic array changed and finally emitted a light, wrapping Wu Ming. In the mirror world of the Berserker profession card, Wu Ming appeared on the top of the building. The mirror world during the day was different from the night. If you didn't look at the broken glass in the air and the boundary of the mirror world, you wouldn't think that it was the mirror world at all. Feeling the power of his natural enemy, Wu Ming turned his head in an instant and looked at a corner of the building. He saw a big hand grabbing the corner of the roof of the building. Then he saw the blue veins on the hand burst out, and a huge figure jumped up. Wu-Ming looked at the huge body in front of him. Messy black hair, a red right eye and a golden left eye, but the two eyes were irrational. The skin was dark like iron, and the battle skirt only covered the crotch. The wrists and ankles had spiky bracelets and ankles. The ferocious face looked at Wu-Ming and it was breathing heavily. This was undoubtedly the berserker Hercules that Wu-Ming knew. However, the strangest thing was that the berserker was surrounded by black mud. The black mud wrapped around the berserker like a guardian and kept flowing. This black mud with this face is really scary, Wu-Ming said. BZZT BZZT BZZT. Berserker roared and charged at Wu-Ming. Wu-Ming waved his arm and a golden ripple appeared behind him. A large number of silver chains appeared in the ripple and rushed to Berserker. The fake Enkidu created by Wu-Ming using the Create Green item could still contain Hercules with high divinity. However, a strange scene appeared. The fake Enkidu wrapped around Berserker's body, preventing him from moving. However, the surrounding black mud corroded the Enkidu. The fake Enkidu created by Wu-Ming broke, and Berserker regained his freedom and rushed to Wu-Ming again. Boom! Berserker swung his fist at Wu-Ming, but Wu-Ming nimbly jumped away, and the huge fist cracked the roof of the building. This black mud is strange. Wu-Ming frowned and said. Logically speaking, even if the fake created by Wu-Ming had this attribute, it shouldn't be so fragile. The black mud was like hot water poured on ice, and it instantly corroded the Enkidu created by Wu-Ming. This is troublesome. Wu-Ming frowned and said. Chapter 154. The empty building was riddled with holes at this moment. From an architectural point of view, the building was no longer able to support itself, but for some unknown reason, it continued to remain standing. The color of the sky gradually turned orange-red, and the sun had set. Flagelak, sword of the war god. Berserker, whose body was red, fell to the ground with a thud. A ray of light pierced through his chest, leaving a big hole in his chest. Berserker turned into a card and fell to the ground. Wu-Ming stood not far from Berserker and breathed a long sigh of relief. On the ground in front of him was a ruined stone ball that was emitting black smoke. Sure enough, facing the resurrected Berserker, backlight sword will determine that the opponent is using his trump card. Wu-Ming said. Wu-Ming and Berserker have been fighting for a whole day, from sending Meiyu to school in the morning until the sun set. The building was almost destroyed. The reason why it didn't collapse was that Wu-Ming constantly set up loon magic on the building when he was fighting with Berserker. That was why the building was not destroyed by Wu-Ming and Berserker's attacks until now. What the hell is this black mud? Wu-Ming looked at his right hand and said to himself. At this moment, a mass of black mud was floating on Wu-Ming's right hand. The black mud was constantly surging. That was what Wu-Ming extracted from Berserker when he was fighting with him. Speaking of Berserker, Wu-Ming was very distressed. Because Berserker's body was wrapped in black mud, the Enkidu made by Wu-Ming would be corroded by this special black mud. Coupled with Berserker's resurrection noble phantasm, it was really a headache. After Wu-Ming killed Berserker's rank card user, he gave the rank card to Kalas for analysis. Naturally, he knew that Berserker had 12 lives, and he would be resistant to weapons or attacks that killed him. That was why Wu-Ming said it was troublesome. Wu-Ming did not try to use his noble phantasm to test the corrosion of the black mud. Instead, he used Create Great item to create some noble phantasm that could last for a while. Wu-Ming used all the relics that he knew that could kill Berserker. This included Yggdrasil, Meteor Silver Meteor, Gibalg, Excalibur, Kalidbalg, Aroundite, Excalibur, Kalidbalg, Wu-Ming's Noble Phantasm, Excalibur, Kalidbalg, Aroundite, Excalibur, Excalibur, Kalidbalg, Excalibur, 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 Kalidbalg, Unbreakable Lake, Excalibur, 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 Excalibur Gallatin, and all the other noble phantasms that Wu-Ming was familiar with, including Wu-Ming's own noble phantasm, Heaven Age. Wu-Ming made these fake noble phantasms. Although the noble phantasms would break after releasing them, there was no doubt that these noble phantasms consumed one of Berserker's life. In addition, Wu-Ming used noble phantasms' enchanted God's Seal and the nameless spellbook to kill Berserker 11 times. In the end, Wu-Ming used the backlight sword Flagelak and successfully killed it 12 times. If it's Ilya and the others, they probably won't be able to defeat this monster. Wu-Ming said. Of course, if there was no miracle. Wu-Ming picked up Berserker's class card on the ground and said to Kalas, "Let's go, Kalas." "Yes, master." Then Wu-Ming left the shattered mirror world. In the real world, Shirasuke's residence. Mayu and Ilya, who was worried about Wu-Ming, sat together in the house with a worried expression. "Ilya, Mayu, what happened?" Rin Enbin and Luvia arrived at the entrance of Shirasuke's residence and shouted, "Sister Rin and Sister Luvia are here." Ilya immediately stood up and went to greet the two. "As soon as we heard that something had happened, this monkey and I rushed over." "What happened?" Although Rin Enbin was a little angry at Luvia's way of addressing them, he endured it. "Yeah, what happened? Why did you call us over in such a hurry?" Rin Enbin said. "The big brother is missing," Ilya said worriedly. "Missing?" Rin Enbin and Luvia were confused. Although the two were curious about Wu-Ming's whereabouts, they didn't think that he was in any danger. After all, Wu-Ming was someone who could take Saber's attack head-on and even defeat her. "Anyway, don't worry. I believe that with Wu-Ming's strength he'll be fine." Rin Enbin comforted them. "That's right. Mayu, don't worry. Wu-Ming must be delayed by something." Luvia also comforted Mayu. At this moment, Wu-Ming walked into Shirasuke's residence. Why is everyone here?" Wu-Ming was confused. Then Wu-Ming saw that the sun was about to set and realized something. Wu-Ming and Berserker fought for an entire day. Not to mention that Mayu didn't see Wu-Ming after school. Wu-Ming only came back now. He had been missing for too long. That. Wu-Ming wanted to say something apologetically, but Mayu's next action interrupted him. Mayu hugged Wu-Ming tightly. Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't say anything. Ilya looked at Mayu worriedly. "Brother Wu-Ming, don't leave me." Mayu choked. Mayu had never cried before. Mayu had always been strong. This was the first time Wu-Ming saw Mayu cry. Wu-Ming's face softened. He looked at Mayu gently and patted Mayu's head. "Sorry, Mayu, forgive me this time. I won't leave you." Then no one said anything or did anything. They just quietly looked at the brother and sister. Soon, Mayu put away her emotions. Wu-Ming and the others came to the living room and sat down. Wu-Ming took out the Berserker class card and put it on the table. "This is the Berserker class card." Rin Enbin and Luvia were confused. "You entered the mirror world during the day?" Wu-Ming nodded. "Kalas has the ability to enter the mirror world during the day. I knew that Berserker wasn't someone you could deal with, so I entered Berserker's mirror world alone." Rin Enbin nodded in agreement. After all, Silent Wonder had admitted that he had fought with Berserker for an entire day. If Silent Wonder, who had easily defeated Saber, was troubled by Berserker, the result would be obvious if Rin Enbin and the others were to retrieve Berserker's class card. "Brother Wu-Ming, are you hurt?" Mayu looked at Wu-Ming cautiously. Wu-Ming smiled and patted Mayu's head. "Although the process was a bit difficult, I was not hurt. Besides, I am a servant. If I am injured, I can naturally recover by replenishing my mana." "Brother Wu-Ming, I will help Brother Wu-Ming when he is injured," Mayu said firmly. Wu-Ming was stunned for a moment, then he remembered that he didn't seem to have told Mayu how to replenish a magician's mana. "I can do it too. I can also help Big Brother if he lacks mana." Rin Enbin and Luvia looked at Wu-Ming as if they were looking at a scumbag. "Scumbag, you won't even let go of a primary school student. Scumbag, you won't even let go of your own sister." Wu-Ming helplessly touched his forehead and sighed. "Please let me explain." Chapter 155. After Rin and Osaka and Luvia secretly told Ilya and Mayu about Magician's mana replenishment, the two little Lolas blushed like a monkey's butt. "No. Brother Wu-Ming, I didn't mean that, I didn't know." Mayu lowered her head and said to Wu-Ming with smoke coming out of her head. "I didn't mean that either. I didn't want to kiss Big Brother." Ilya was even more thorough and shouted with a red face. Everyone looked at Ilya in surprise, and she instantly lowered her head and stopped talking. Seeing Rin and Osaka and Luvia who were about to punch him, Wu-Ming quickly changed the topic. "Go. Currently, the 7 job grade cards have been collected, and there's something I have to tell you." Wu-Ming pretended to be serious, but the effect was good, and the 4 of them returned to their previous expressions. Wu-Ming picked up the Berserker job grade card on the table and said to them, "I have to leave for a while, and I need you to help me take care of Mayu in exchange for this job grade card." After all, Mayu was still a 10-year-old child in elementary school, and even if Mayu had the ability to take care of herself, Wu-Ming was still worried. What? They were all confused. Ilya didn't understand why Wu-Ming wanted to leave when all the job grade cards were collected. Meiyu on the other hand couldn't accept Wuming's sudden departure. Rin and Osaka and Luvia looked at each other and then asked, although you're the one who collected this job grade card and you can make conditions, you have to tell us how long you're going to be away. After all, the Great Master only gave us 2 weeks and there's about a week left. I'm not sure how long exactly, but I'll be back as soon as possible. As for the issue of time, I'll personally tell Zelik to extend the time for you to collect the job grade cards, Wuming said. Since he said so, Rin and Osaka and Luvia had no other choice. Alright then. Rin, Enbin and Luvia agreed. After that, Wuming handed the Berserker class card to the two of them. Rin and Osaka asked, you don't need to sign a compulsory essay contest? Self-compulsory essay was a magic contract that restricted both parties when there was an agreement between the magicians. After all, Wuming, Rin and Osaka, and Luvia had only known each other for less than a week. Logically speaking, every magician would have to sign a compulsory essay form before working with another magician. Wuming smiled. I believe you. Although Wuming hadn't known Rin, Enbin and Luvia for long, he had inherited some of Skaha's ability to judge people. Rin, Enbin and Luvia were both upright magicians, unlike the usual treacherous and sly people. In addition, with their relationship with Ilya, Meiyu and Meiyu, Wuming didn't need to worry about leaving Rin, Enbin and Meiyu to them. Rin, Enbin and Luvia exchanged glances and smiled. Then Luvia said, in that case let's let Meiyu stay at my house. After all, a certain monkey doesn't have a place to live anymore. Oh, Luvia laughed like a queen again. Rin, Enbin tried his best to suppress the urge to beat someone up. With a sad face he asked Meiyu, what do you think, Meiyu? Okay. Meiyu nodded. Actually, it didn't matter who took care of Meiyu. It didn't matter at all. Then let's do it this way, Wuming said. Then Wuming looked at Meiyu. Meiyu, big brother will only leave for a short while. It won't be long. I know, brother Wuming. I will wait for you to pick me up at Sister Luvia's house, Meiyu said firmly. Big brother, I will also take care of Meiyu. When you come back, Meiyu will definitely be healthy. Ilya raised her small hand and said, Ilya, I'm afraid you can't even take care of yourself, let alone take care of Meiyu. Ruby ridiculed from the side. Ruby, shut up. Ilya grabbed the Ruby with a red face. Looking at this pair of enemies, everyone laughed. At night, after eating dinner, Wuming sent off the others, including Meiyu, who was about to move into Luvia's house. At this moment, the Shuoyu residence was already empty. Wuming moved his fingers a few times and set up a few boundaries. There were permanent boundaries such as idle person dispelling, automatic cleaning, and so on. Looking at the completed boundaries, Wuming nodded with satisfaction. It's time to go. After saying that, Wuming's body transformed and turned into a class card. The class card Ruta could move on its own and flew out of the Shuoyu residence in a certain direction. In the Shape Moon world, inside the Origin, a huge dragon silhouette was sleeping. After an unknown amount of time, Rutu's consciousness awakened. The huge dragon silhouette opened its eyes and its body began to move. As the dragon silhouette's body moved, the originally pitch-black dragon silhouette instantly glowed and revealed a pure and holy dragon body. Wuming felt extremely comfortable after Rutu's body was unlocked. So this is the true way of the Origin dragon's growth? The huge white holy dragon muttered to itself. Wuming felt completely different from before and understood what he had to do next. Originally, Wuming wanted to use the 2 restraints of the Shape Moon world to search for the origin of the black mud. However, the 2 restraints told Wuming that the black mud came from the Shape Moon world's origin. It was a foreign substance that flowed into the Shape Moon world's origin from the inside of Wuming's origin, a unique kind of evil of this world that was created when it fused with the evil of this world. Even the 2 restraints couldn't figure out the origin of this substance. After knowing that his current exploration was fruitless, Wuming decided to go to other worlds to find the answer himself. Before that, Wuming also asked the 2 restraints to not take too long when he returned to Meiyu's world. For the 2 restraints who controlled countless parallel worlds of the Shape Moon, this was a simple matter. After everything was prepared, Wuming flew out of the Origin and entered a space-time tunnel that connected countless dimensions. Wuming once again entered an unknown world. In a certain world, in a mysterious realm, a young girl looked at a certain place and said, "Ah, where's the special outer god?" In the outside world, in Italy's Sardinia, a ripple appeared in the air, and a huge white dragon shadow appeared. The dragon's ruby-like eyes looked at the sky, a bit confused. "I don't feel the existence of the Origin. Is this a new world?" The origin that Wu Ming spoke of was a unique source of magic in the air of the Shape Moon world. In the gods' era, the origin provided most of the magic needed by magicians. Therefore, the magic of the gods' era was unmatched by modern magicians after the origin's disappearance. The world that Wu Ming came to was similar to the world that Wu Ming went to before, where the origin did not exist. Therefore, Wu Ming concluded that there was nothing unknown in this world. Wu Ming looked at the ground and found that he was in the air above a large island. At that moment, a strange phenomenon appeared. Chapter 156. Wu Ming's body emitted a golden energy that was visible to the naked eye, as if he was emitting energy involuntarily. The golden energy began to spread to the surroundings, and its speed was quite fast, and it instantly affected the Sardinian residents below Wu Ming. Strange power, Wu Ming said. Then Wu Ming turned into a human with black hair and red eyes, and a white robe draped over his body. He floated in the air with the help of the flight necklace that he had been wearing. As soon as Wu Ming returned to his human form, the golden aura that affected the residents of Sardinian instantly decreased a lot. Sure enough, after absorbing the power of Source, my dragon form will be suppressed when I turn into a human form. When Wu Ming's consciousness returned to the source of the world, he obviously found the changes in his body. Not only did he have many strange abilities, but some abilities were also suppressed when he returned to his human form. However, this golden energy seems to be my holy aura mixed with some strange things in this world. Since it's still my own ability, then I can control it. With this thought, the golden energy disappeared. After resolving the panic caused by himself, Wu Ming stretched out his hand and felt the magic in the air. Although there is no source, the magic in the air is not worse than the source in the world of the Shape Moon. Then Wu Ming looked at himself again. Because Wu Ming's consciousness stayed in the state of Hyunryong for a long time, Wu Ming was somewhat affected by the Uruk style. When Wu Ming turned into his human form, he wore Uruk clothes. I haven't used my own body for a long time, I really miss it. My own body is still the best, Wu Ming said. Although Wu Ming was affected by his previous job, Wu Ming was still himself after all, and he could still control these effects after returning to his own body. Moreover, because of the absorption of the power of Source, Wu Ming overcame the defects of being the root dragon that could not be born in his hometown. At this moment, Wu Ming could be considered a perfect creature. Although Wu Ming was somewhat affected by this world after coming to this time, it did not affect Wu Ming's foundation. It was as if the power of this world was guiding Wu Ming's holy aura and strengthening it. But in essence, it was still Wu Ming's power, which was why Wu Ming was able to take back the golden energy. Wu Ming then looked at the island below him. I have to figure out what this place is first, Wu Ming said and flew to the ground. Somewhere in Sardinia, Wu Ming was wearing casual clothes and walking on the street. After asking around, Wu Ming found out that they were in Sardinia, Italy. Looks like this is also a hidden and mysterious world. Wu Ming felt the existence of magic from certain places and people, but other than that, it was just like an ordinary world. Walking casually, Wu Ming looked at the foreign streets. Suddenly, Wu Ming saw a purple-haired young man, and the young man was also looking at Wu Ming. Wu Ming narrowed his eyes. He could feel that the young man in front of him had a huge amount of magic in his body, and he did not look like an ordinary magician at all. The young man smiled at Wu Ming and then left. The other party's existence is somewhat similar to a servant, Wu Ming judged. Then Wu Ming shook his head. Sure enough, I have to find a magician to ask about the situation of this world. Then Wu Ming also walked in another direction. Suddenly, a pedestrian next to Wu Ming asked Wu Ming, "Sorry to disturb you." Wu Ming turned to look at the person. Black hair, blue and white coat, black pants, a good-looking oriental face reflected in Wu Ming's eyes. The other party was holding a slate in his hand, which was full of magic. Obviously it was a magic book. Wu Ming, who has rich knowledge, could clearly see that the other party was using Japanese English. After judging that the other party was Japanese, Wu Ming directly asked in Japanese, "What's the matter?" The other party was obviously stunned for a moment, and then said in Japanese, "Great, I didn't expect Mr. Wu Ming to speak Japanese. My name is Kusanagi Defender, I want to ask for directions." Wu Ming immediately said, "I'm sorry Mr. Kusanagi, I'm not a local, if you want to ask for directions I can't help." Kusanagi Defender was stunned for a moment and then said, That's it, then I'm sorry to disturb you, goodbye." Goodbye. Wu Ming and Kusanagi Defender returned the greeting to each other. Just when Wu Ming was about to turn and leave, a female voice came. You over there, give me the magic book in your hand. Wuming and Kusanagi Defender looked at the source of the voice at the same time. A beautiful woman was reflected in Wuming's eyes. She had long blonde wavy hair, a red dress, white stockings and red high heels. She held a knife in her hand and pointed it at Wuming and Kusanagi Defender. He's looking for you. Wu Ming stopped his footsteps and said to the Kusanagi Protector Hall while standing still. What? Looking for me? Kusanagi Defender said in a panic. My name is Erica Brantley. The one next to you is right. It's you, the one with the grimoire. The girl who called herself Erica was still pointing her knife at them. Wait, what magic book? I don't know what you're talking about. Kusanagi Defender was puzzled. At this moment, Wuming suddenly looked somewhere. Wuming's sudden turn also made Kusanagi Defender and Erica look in the same direction. A huge beast shadow arched up from the ground in an instant, and everything it touched was shattered. It was a huge red-eyed wild boar. That's a divine beast, Erica said with a frown. Then Erica said to Wuming and Kusanagi Defender, hurry up and take shelter. With that, Erica dashed onto the roof of a car in one swift step. Yaliana, Erica said to the maid who was driving the car in the car. Yes, Miss Erica. Yaliana started the car in an instant, and ran with Erica toward the huge wild boar. What the hell is going on? The Kusanagi Protector said to himself calmly. Wuming smiled and then said, you don't need to know this, you'd better take shelter. After that, Wuming strode in the direction of the wild boar. Hey, let's take shelter together. Kusanagi Defender said worriedly. Wuming was a little surprised. Wuming did not expect this guy to be so calm. You should go by yourself, I don't want to miss a guy who seems to know a lot of things. With that, Wuming suddenly jumped and moved toward the wild boar along the building. Kusanagi Defender could not believe his eyes and rubbed them violently. I think I'd better take shelter. Chapter 157. The gigantic wild boar continued to wreak havoc in the city, destroying a large number of buildings. Erica jumped onto a building, and with a flash of light, a set of movement-like clothes replaced the red evening dress Erica wore before. Steel Lion and Lionheart King, please listen to the oath of Knight Erica Brantley. With the recitation of the spell, a magic formation appeared beside Erica, and a steel lion head emerged from the magic formation. The steel lion head opened its big mouth, and Erica thrust her hand into the steel lion head. Then Erica jerked, and an exquisite rapier appeared in her hand. It's time for the duel, Lionheart Coeur de Lion. Erica pointed the Lionheart in her hand at the gigantic wild boar, and the energy on the Lionheart skyrocketed, turning into a red lightning bolt and rushing toward the gigantic wild boar. The red lightning bolt hit the gigantic wild boar, and the energy radiated from the gigantic wild boar resisted Erica's attack. Bang! As if it had hit an insurmountable wall, there was a loud bang. Sure enough, it's a divine beast, Erica said as if she knew the result. Despite this, Erica continued to release energy to attack the gigantic wild boar. The gigantic wild boar, as if enraged by the continuous attack, slammed toward Erica. Erica struggled to hold her sword, and was slowly repelled by the impact of the gigantic wild boar. Finally, Erica retreated to the edge of the house. As if enraged by this little bug that could resist its attack, the gigantic wild boar suddenly slammed upward. The house Erica was in was instantly shattered, and Erica fell to the ground. At this moment, Wuming rushed over and hugged Erica. Wuming landed on the ground with ease. It's better to leave this kind of thing to a man, Wuming said with a smile. Erica stared blankly at Wuming, obviously unable to react. Wuming put down Erica, and then rushed toward the gigantic wild boar. Wait, that's a divine beast which ordinary magicians can't deal with. As soon as Erica finished speaking, she saw a scene that she couldn't believe. Wuming jumped towards the giant wild boar and punched it. Boom! The giant wild boar was sent flying upwards. Erica looked at Wuming in a daze, as if she were looking at a human-shaped dragon. It seemed that Erica was right. Rumble! The giant wild boar landed exactly where the giant wild boar was originally standing. It was as if the giant wild boar had jumped up and landed on its head. Wuming clenched his fists in excitement. His ruby-like eyes were filled with an unruly expression. Sure enough, the me who has grown is no longer the same as before, Wuming said as he clenched his uninjured right hand. Wuming's red eyes burned like boiling blood. Perhaps it was because of Wuming's dragonization, but Wuming's eyes had turned red a long time ago. Suddenly, a hurricane swept up from under the giant wild boar, and it was instantly torn apart. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary hurricane. Wu-Ming sensed the surging magic power in the hurricane that was increasing. It increased by about the same amount as the giant wild boar that Wu-Ming had just knocked down. Just as Wu-Ming was about to attack, the hurricane instantly dissipated. Wu-Ming saw a purple-haired figure in the ruins again. Is it that young man from earlier? Wu-Ming took a closer look. As expected, his senses were right. He must have something to do with this. The purple-haired young man smiled at Wu-Ming again, but this time, it was a smile filled with fighting spirit. Then he turned into a gust of wind and left. Wu-Ming didn't try to chase after him. Instead, he jumped back to Erica's side. So then, Miss Erica, can you tell me more about this world? Wu-Ming asked with a smile. Erica didn't seem to react to it yet. She nodded blankly. Erica and Wu-Ming sat on the seats of a certain train station. Due to the evacuation, the station was empty for the time being. After Erica returned to her senses, she immediately asked Wu-Ming, "Why can you knock down a divine beast with a single punch? Are you a powerful magician from a mysterious place? Or are you a demon king?" Facing a series of questions from Erica, Wu-Ming expressed that he didn't know what she was talking about. Why don't you tell me what that thing was first?" Wu-Ming said. "Huh? You don't know what that thing is?" Erica said in surprise. Facing Erica's strange look, Wu-Ming quickly said, "Just think of me as a reclusive magician who doesn't know anything about the world. I don't think an ordinary magician can knock down a divine beast with a single punch," Erica muttered. Although Erica was very suspicious of Wu-Ming's origin, she still explained the series of questions about the mythological beasts just now to Wu-Ming. Before human history, there were many powerful gods in the world, and these existences had no names. After the birth of human beings, these gods, while bestowing human beings with gifts, also persecuted human beings. People were afraid of these gods, so they made up myths and gave these gods names. The gods with names were bound by the myths that people had made up and gradually entered the myths. They became the gods of the myths that steadily carried out their duties. However, there were also some gods who were unwilling to perform their duties. They appeared in the world and became the god of disobedience who disobeyed their own myths. For the damage caused by the god of disobedience, ordinary people who didn't know magic would only be told that it was a natural disaster. Wu-Ming also knew something about the god of disobedience, which was almost similar to the disobedient heroic spirit appearing in the world. Because the heroic spirit had restraining power, this kind of situation would not happen. And the gods in this world, although bound by the myths made by human beings, could still come to the world. Erica then told Wu-Ming why they should fight against the god of disobedience. Different god of disobedience had different dangers. For example, the appearance of Poseidon would cause tsunamis, the appearance of the sun god would burn the earth, and the appearance of the god of war would cause wars. After learning that the appearance of the gods would cause various problems, Wu-Ming had a clue about the problems caused by his arrival in this world. Am I judged as the god of disobedience by this world? Later Wu-Ming asked, so, how did human beings survive? That's right, since the gods frequently appeared as the god of disobedience, how did human beings survive? Erica looked at Wu-Ming with a more surprised look, as if she was asking if he was from this world. However, since Wu-Ming was her savior, Erica continued to educate Wu-Ming. Human beings were a kind of existence that could cause miracles. In this world, there were currently 6 gods who killed the god of disobedience for various reasons. They were called Kampoin, that is, the god slayers. The god slayers killed the god of disobedience and obtained the divine power of the god of disobedience killed, that is, authority. The god slayers who killed the god of disobedience who harmed human beings were also called Demon King because of various problems. The god slayers sheltered human beings, destroyed the god of disobedience, and accepted the service of human beings. And just now, the giant wild boar and the hurricane that destroyed the wild boar were the incarnations of a certain god. After more or less understanding the background of this world, Wu-Ming couldn't help but think of the purple-haired youth from before. Clearly the other party was a god of disobedience. And at this moment the world began to change color. Chapter 158. The sky was instantly filled with dark clouds and the ground was filled with smoke. It began to rain like a storm. Thump, thump, thump. The ground shook. It was the sound of a giant creature moving step by step. Wu-Ming and Erica looked toward the source of the sound. In the distance, the figure of a giant appeared. The giant's body was several hundred meters tall, and part of the giant's body was covered in a grayish-black ancient armor. The exposed skin and muscles were knotted together, making it seem particularly powerful. The giant's long white beard blocked the giant's nose and mouth, and its two white eyes, which seemed to have no sense of reason, hung in the sky like two huge copper bells. That's... Erica exploded. She used magic to change into battle clothes and ran toward the giant. Wu-Ming shook his head helplessly and followed. "Stay a moment, God!" cried Erica from behind the giant. Hearing someone calling him, the giant stopped and turned his head to look at the human who had stopped him. "Human, how dare you stand in the path of a god? How bold of you!" The giant questioned Erica with a thunderous voice. "God, you must be the king of Sardinia, Mekhl, who is worshipped by the Phoenicians," Erica said. Mekhl was surprised. He said happily, "Yes, I am Mekhl. I didn't expect someone to remember my name. How surprising. King Mekhl, please stop or Sardinia will be destroyed." Erica continued to persuade him. "Human, you know my name, but that doesn't mean you can stop me. Since you know my name, I won't hold you accountable." Then a bolt of lightning struck Mekhl. Boom. A pair of goat eyes vaguely appeared in the cloudy sky, looking at Mekhl. Mekhl blocked the lightning with his arm. "Seems like I have to speed up." With that, Mekhl left. Just as Erica was about to chase after him, a hand pressed down on her shoulder. "Okay, didn't I tell you? Leave this to us men." Erica turned around only to see Wu-Ming's ruby eyes. "In short, leave everything to me." After saying that, Wu-Ming walked in the direction that Mekhl had left. "If it's him, maybe," Erica thought. Erica shook her head and ran in the direction Mekhl had left. The storm continued to fall, lightning flashed around and thunder rumbled. Wu-Ming ran in the direction where Mirka left and soon saw Mirka stop. In front of Mekhl, the purple-haired youth that Wu-Ming had met twice before was floating in front of him. "You're willing to fight me even though you haven't gathered all your avatars. That's a good fight, Welslana," Mekhl said. The purple-haired youth, Welslana, smiled faintly and said, "I am the undefeated war god, an existence that seeks only one defeat. And now there are not only two gods like us, King Mekhl. It seems that I'm blind. I didn't expect another one of my kind to hide like a human." Mekhl immediately turned to look at Wu-Ming. "I'm sorry, I'm not a god. I'm just a traveler who has been to many places," Wu-Ming replied calmly. At this moment, Wu-Ming already knew why Mekhl thought that he was one of their kind, the god of disobedience. Wu-Ming's origin dragon bloodline had been strengthened. As a origin dragon that could freely travel through all worlds, it could be said that every time Wu-Ming went to a world, the world would give him a new identity. In addition, Wu-Ming had a relationship with King Arthur, the Hero King, and others. Therefore, Wu-Ming was automatically judged as a mythical existence by this world, the god of disobedience. Now, Wu-Ming was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, completely disrupting the development and change of this world. "I wonder if there are any legends about me in this world," Wu-Ming thought. "You don't have to be humble, my fellow. However, although you're also a god, you can't interfere with my battle with Welslana," Mekhl said. "I don't have any objections. I'm only after failure. Even if it's 1 against 2, I'm confident," Welslana said arrogantly. "You dare to say that, army god?" Mekhl mocked. "Don't bother," Wu-Ming said. "Both of you just go ahead." As soon as he said that, Mekhl and Welslana's expressions changed. "Even if you're one of our kind, you can't say that. You're really arrogant, unknown god." Mekhl and Welslana were a little angry, but Wu-Ming was indeed confident. One had to know that Wu-Ming had a relic that could deal with gods. "Shaoan, can I do it now?" Wu-Ming asked in his heart. "No problem, Master Wu-Ming." Enkidu's gentle voice was heard. That was right. Ever since Wu-Ming came to this world, Wu-Ming realized that Enkidu had awakened. It seemed that because Wu-Ming was absorbing power from his roots, Enkidu had also benefited from it. At that moment, Enkidu had completely broken free from the chains that connected heaven and earth and had become Wu-Ming's exclusive relic. It was bound to Wu-Ming's soul. "Then let's begin, Mekhl." Welslana. In an instant, a large number of golden ripples appeared behind Wu-Ming, and within the golden ripples, a few golden chains appeared. The chains rushed towards Mekhl and Welslana. As Mekhl's body was not agile and he was careless, he was instantly bound by the golden chains. Welslana felt that something was wrong and quickly used one of his clones, the Phoenix, to escape. "Just a chain. Let's see if I can break free from it," Mekhl roared. However, no matter how hard Mekhl tried, he could not break free from the chains that bound him. Could it be a relic? Welslana looked at the golden chains that were getting tighter and tighter and said in shock. Take a guess. Wuming smiled. In an instant, Wuming's body shot towards Welslana. Welslana did not retreat and faced Wuming head-on. I'll be happy if you have a relic. It seems like I have a chance to taste defeat. Welslana wanted to taste defeat, but it was not a meaningless defeat. He wanted to fully enjoy the battle before he lost. Come on then, Welslana. Chapter 159. Wuming and Welslana each stretched out a hand and swung it at each other. Boom. The collision between the fists impacted the surrounding atmosphere, sending out a shock wave, accompanied by a loud noise. After a short separation, Welslana said, You're really powerful. My bull told me that you have such extraordinary power. Is that so? I have more than that. Wuming stretched out his hand, and in an instant, a giant black hole appeared in front of Welslana, and even the ground began to be sucked up by the black hole. Magic strength black hole. What? Welslana was sucked in by the black hole, but Welslana immediately activated his Phoenix mode and escaped from the black hole's suction. Magic strength black dragon thunder. In an instant, a black dragon-shaped lightning rushed toward Welslana. Don't underestimate me. Welslana exited his Phoenix mode and used his goat mode. In an instant, a large amount of lightning collided with Wuming's black lightning. Boom. The lightning exploded, and it made a deafening roar. Taking advantage of the collision between the two sides, Wuming raised his hand again. Magic strength, cardiac mastery. An invisible force spread to Welslana's body. Welslana spat out a mouthful of blood, and then the injury on his body instantly healed. That was the effect of his goat mode. The advanced spells Silent Ming used were all learned from the Nameless Spellbook. They were all instant death spells, and they were strengthened by the strengthening spells he learned from the Nameless Spellbook to increase their power. At this time Meckel's voice came. Even if I'm bound, you can't underestimate me. Unforgivable. Meckel's body was covered with Enkidu, but even so Meckel still had brute force. He used his body to hit Wuming. Flash. Wuming's figure instantly moved to the other side of Meckel. Before he could stabilize his body, Wuming suddenly turned his body to the side. A golden sword swept past Wuming's side, and it cut through Wuming's side waist, taking away a trace of flesh and blood from Wuming. This is a golden sword that can cut the godhead? Wuming covered his abdomen and frowned. Welslana looked at Wuming with the golden sword in his hand. For Wuming, who was known as the god of disobedience, it could be said to have high-level divinity. And that golden sword had the power to cut the godhead. In other words, Wuming was now naked in Welslana's eyes. That's right, unknown god, this is my trump card. But Wuming sneered at Welslana's words and then said, But as far as I know, Welslana, the god of war, must know the opponent's ability to use this sword. For those who don't know my real name, this sword can only be used as a weapon that ignores defense. Ah, isn't that a matter of course? Hiding one's name is also a means. It's great. An unknown god. Can you defeat me? Welslana began to shout excitedly. Then as you wish. A pair of dragon horns appeared on Wuming's head, and Kalas said, Master, the analysis is complete. Well, look carefully, Welslana, this is your power. Create green item, advanced item creation. As the spell was recited, a golden sword appeared in Wuming's hand. How is this possible? Welslana was in disbelief. That's right, Welslana, this is your golden sword that cut the godhead. Kalas, who had a wealth of knowledge after knowing the real names of Meckel and Welslana, she began to infuse the knowledge of those two into Wuming's mind. After all, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. Originally, Wuming, who didn't have the feeling, couldn't create the golden sword with create great item. However, Welslana used the golden sword to cut Wuming, and Wuming perceived the structure of this weapon. As the masterpiece of the gemstone master, Kalas was a completely support-type magic attire, and had even turned into a silent noble artifact. It was completely possible to analyze the ability of the golden sword of Welslana. With all the buffs and with the knowledge of this sword in Wuming's mind, Wuming successfully created Welslana's golden sword that cut the godhead. It's useless. Even if you created my sword, it's still a fake. Welslana said. Is that so? Then give it a try, Welslana. Wuming waved his hand forward, and several similar golden swords appeared beside Wuming. Welslana, as the undefeated god of war, you have 10 incarnations: strong wind, bull, white horse, camel, wild boar, youth, phoenix, ram, goat, and human warrior with a golden sword. The golden sword began to split, and more golden swords appeared. Legend has it that Wellerslana is also the guardian of the god of light, Mitra. Mitra is the incarnation of the sun, so Wellerslana is also related to the sun. Your name is Wellerslana, and you are also the god of conquest who is closely related to Hercules. Soon, a large number of golden swords appeared around Wellerslana, and the entire sky turned into a golden sword territory. At this moment, Wellerslana was trapped in the golden sword territory and could not escape. In West Asia, you are known as the guardian of light, and you have the same origin as Indra, the Thunder Emperor of India. You once appeared in Avesta as an eagle and were described as the symbol of royalty. Wellerslana is not only the god of victory, but also the guardian of royalty and the people. Therefore, the golden swords were all pointed at Wellerslana. Wellerslana is only your Greek name, and your real name is Bahram. Therefore, the golden sword stabbed at Wellerslana. Pucci. Wellerslana was pierced by a large number of golden swords, but he was still smiling. Is this the feeling of being defeated? It's not bad. Wellerslana smiled. I will come for you next time. You can't be defeated by others before I am resurrected, unknown god. Wellerslana disappeared with a satisfied expression. All the golden swords shattered, and the golden sword territory disappeared, turning into the storm again. Wuming looked at Mekl, who was standing at the side. This is unbelievable, Mekl said. This is my mistake. I didn't expect you to have a relic that can defeat gods. My kind, give me the price of my failure. Wuming summoned the golden sword again, but this time, it was much bigger than before. As you wish. Mekl disappeared in the sky and the storm stopped raging. The sun reappeared in the sky, and the sunlight shone on the land that was full of destruction. Erica stood in the ruins, looking at Wuming, who was standing under the sun in disbelief. The seventh god slayer is born. Chapter 160. A week had passed since Wuming had killed Wellerslana and Mekl. Wuming sat cross-legged in a luxurious Western-style room with his eyes closed. Wuming, who had killed the two gods, naturally obtained two authorities. However, these two authorities were of little value to Wuming. Therefore, Wuming used his talent ability, the Noble Phantasm, and successfully merged the two authorities into one. Wuming was checking the authority that had become his Noble Phantasm. In Wuming's spiritual world, a huge stone slab was embedded in it. The huge stone slab was embedded with 12 small stone slabs. Like a clock, they were evenly distributed in 12 positions. It was just like a clock. In the middle of the 12 small stone slabs, there were two stone pillars, one long and one short. They were like the hour and minute hands on a clock. Dragon seed, giant, warrior, storm, annihilation, flood, vitality, kin, thunder god, phoenix, sun, magician. This was what Wuming's authority looked like after he had obtained Wellerslana and Mekl's authority. Each stone slab was engraved with different scenes, and the position of each stone slab corresponded to each scale on the clock. At that moment, the hour and minute hands were pointing at the small stone slab at 12 o'clock. The stone slab at 12 o'clock had a magician in a long robe engraved on it. Following Wuming's consciousness, the stone slab that was pointed at there started to glow. In the outside world, Wuming opened his eyes and casually stretched out his hand. A ball of flame appeared in Wuming's hand. As his consciousness changed, the flame in Wuming's hand turned into many things. First, it turned into a stream of water, then it turned into a ball of lightning, and then it turned into a purple mist. Wuming cast Yggdrasil's spells one after another, casting them freely. Wuming clenched his hand, and the purple mist disappeared. It seems that magician has increased my casting speed, Wuming said. Then, on the stone plate in Wuming's heart, the short stone pillar turned to the 7 o'clock direction, and the stone plate also lit up. There was a human body engraved on this stone plate, and a large amount of energy filled this person. In an instant, Wuming felt a surge of vitality gushing out of his body. Wuming's mana, spirit, stamina, life force, and all his other attributes had been boosted. At this moment, Wuming felt like he wouldn't die even if his heart was dug out. Is this vitality? This feeling is really good. Wuming clenched his fist tightly and said excitedly. Each stone plate represented an ability and a form. However, because Wuming's previous authority was of little value to him, Wu Ming had upgraded it to a noble artifact. For example, the original form of the giant, the bull, only increased its strength unilaterally. For example, the original form of the dragon, the camel, increased its leg strength and physical toughness. Moreover, all the previous authority required an extremely strange method to activate. The bull required the other party to be strong, the camel needed to be seriously injured, and even the most lethal sun, the original form of the white horse, required the other party to be a sinner. Moreover, each authority could only be used once a day. Meckel's authority aside, Welaslana's authority was undoubtedly of little value. After Welaslana's authority and Meckel's authority merged and upgraded into Wu Ming's own noble artifact, Wu Ming completely mastered the authority that was upgraded into a noble artifact. There were no harsh conditions to use it, no useless abilities and no restrictions to use it. It could be said that any one of the authority could be considered a separate authority. The only flaw was that Wu Ming couldn't use 3 or more authority at the same time. There were only 2 needles in the stone plate, and he couldn't point to 3 stone plates at the same time. Although Wu Ming was a little troubled, the authority relic seemed to be set up according to his current body's performance and characteristics. Wu Ming accepted his fate. At the very least, these 12 authorizations were useful. At that moment, a voice came from outside the door. "King, may I come in?" "Come in," Wu Ming said. Then Wu Ming's door opened, and Erica walked in wearing a gorgeous princess dress. Erica then walked to Wu Ming and knelt on one knee before Wu Ming and said, "King, lunch is ready. Please eat." Wu Ming looked at the beautiful girl who called him king, when they just met and recalled what happened yesterday. After Wu Ming killed Welaslana and Meckel, the storm stopped. As Wu Ming had already cast a large-scale idler dispersal spell when he came to Welaslana and Meckel, there were no casualties in the battle between Wu Ming, Welaslana, and Meckel. As for the destroyed land and buildings, Silent Wonder used magic tools to repair them. Wu Ming still remembered Erica's shocked expression when she saw Wu Ming take out all kinds of things from the golden ripples behind him. After everything was settled, Erica invited Wu Ming to the luxurious villa in a very respectful manner. Wu Ming knew that he had killed the god of disobedience and become a Campoin. This news would definitely be known by others, so Wu Ming didn't hide it. Wu Ming couldn't make up his mind about Erica at first. After all, when Wu Ming, Welaslana, and Meckel fought, Erica hid and watched the whole process. Erica still knew that Wu Ming was the god of disobedience. Wu Ming wasn't sure if Erica regarded him as the god of disobedience or the god slayer, but based on Erica's current behavior towards him, it should be the latter. Wu Ming said to Erica at that time, "I am the god of disobedience, and there will be disasters if you follow me. Even so, you still want to worship me as your king?" Erica, on the other hand, knelt on one knee, looked up at Wu Ming with a smile and said, "I discovered that someone set up a trap to disperse the idlers. I believe in my judgment. A demon king who thinks for the people is worthy of my service." Later, Wu Ming followed Erica's arrangement and came to a villa in Sardinia where Erica belonged. Erica was summoned by her superior organization. Until the next day, Wu Ming didn't see Erica until he got up and had breakfast. Until lunch, that is, now. "What did the other magicians say?" Wu Ming asked suddenly. Erica's body trembled, and then she looked at Wu Ming. "Everyone confirmed the birth of the 7th god slayer through other god slayers, and they unanimously decided to worship you as their king," Erica said. "That's right, Erica has been missing for so long because she received a message from her superior organization, Black Cross, and was recalled to the headquarters." Looking at Erica, who was a little nervous, Wu Ming said, "Let's eat first." "Yes." Chapter 161. Wu Ming followed Erica to the mansion's dining room. After a simple lunch, Erica said to Wu Ming, "Your Majesty, there's something I need to trouble you with." Looking at Erica kneeling on one knee and lowering her head, Wu Ming walked to Erica and held her shoulder. "I don't need to bow and scrape, and there's no need to call me Your Majesty, just call me Wu Ming." "Yes, Lord Wu Ming." As a king, Wu Ming's words were irrefutable. Erica accepted Wu Ming's order. Wu Ming looked at Erica and continued to ask, "So, what's the matter, Erica?" Erica stood up and said to Wu Ming, "Here's the thing, the general of the magic organization I belong to, Red Copper Black Cross, wants to meet you with the higher-ups." Wu Ming immediately said impatiently, "If it's the general, it's okay, but the others don't." Erica didn't expect Wu Ming to refuse so quickly. "I know the general of Red Copper Black Cross. That's your uncle, Paul Brantley, right?" I've seen his deeds from the information you provided. Wu-Ming was not idle these days. He asked Erica to provide him with the information about European magic. Erica naturally found a lot of information and put it all in the study room, and all the information was recorded by Collis. Then Wu-Ming continued. Forget about the others, it's nothing more than seeing my power. This kind of thing is fine even if you don't recognize me, it doesn't matter. Wu-Ming said casually. Your Majesty, please think twice, if they don't see you they won't feel at ease. Erica said. Looking at Erica, who knelt on one knee again, Wu-Ming stroked his forehead helplessly. Alright, I got it. Let's just meet. Also, didn't I say that you can just call me by my name? Yes, Wu-Ming-sama. Later, Wu-Ming followed Erica to a sparsely populated place in Sardinia. Then a few figures walked out. The leader of the group was an uncle full of youthful vitality. His upright face and intellectual temperament made Wu-Ming take a second look at him. Nice to meet you, King of Disobedience. I'm Paul Brantley, the General of Red Copper Black Cross. Paul bowed and said respectfully. Hello, Mr. Paul, since you call me King of Disobedience, you must know my identity. Wu-Ming said casually with his hands in his trousers pockets. Of course, Your Majesty, please don't blame Erica, this has nothing to do with Erica. This is because the Magic Association detected 3 types of divine power when we examined the battlefield between you and Welslana and Meckel. Based on Erica's partial report, we determined that you are a disobedient person. Paul said. Wu-Ming thought about it. When he was judged as the god of disobedience by this world, the magic power he produced would also be judged by this world and transformed into the divine power of this god of disobedience. Therefore, in such a fierce battle, there were only 3 types of divine power left at the scene, and the European Magic Association judged Wu-Ming as the god of disobedience. Then do you trust me so much? Aren't you afraid that I will kill all of you? Instantly, Wu-Ming showed a dangerous expression. The figures behind Paul took 2 steps back in panic. But Paul and Erica were calm. I heard from Erica that before you fought with Welslana and Meckel, you had set up a dispersal system. I believe that such a god is worthy of our support. Paul looked at Wu-Ming's eyes and his eyes were quite firm. Just like that, no one said anything and the atmosphere gradually became anxious. Suddenly Wu-Ming smiled. Ha ha ha, as expected of the highest knight with the title of Diable Rouge. Wu-Ming said. I've already returned that title to Red Copper Black Cross because of my role as the Commander-in-Chief. Now the title of Diable Rouge is held by Erica. Paul said. Erica is a very good knight. Although she is not strong enough, her courage to face the god of disobedience for the people is commendable. Wu-Ming said, then looked at Erica. Thank you for the compliment, Your Majesty. Erica saluted slightly. To hear you say that, Erica is worthy of her efforts over the years. Paul said. So, do you want to see my power? Wu-Ming raised a hand and clenched it into a fist. This question. Paul was a little distressed. What's wrong? What happened? Wu-Ming asked. Actually, another king is coming this way, Paul said with some distress. Wu-Ming instantly knew what Paul was worried about. The God Slayers were a group of eccentric guys, and because of that, people would serve them as kings. The purpose was to restrict the king's actions. After all, every king was a super bomb that exploded at random times. Every time a king was involved in something, it would cause large-scale catastrophic damage. Not to mention the direct economic losses caused, these magicians also needed to work hard to cover up the truth in the damaged areas. Then I can meet the senior, Wu-Ming said with a smile. Erica and others looked at Wu-Ming with a sure enough, he's troublesome look. Then Wu-Ming raised a hand and stretched it forward. Golden ripples appeared, and Wu-Ming took out a golden scepter from it. Wu-Ming held the staff of Ain's Ergong in his hand and gently tapped the ground with the bottom of the scepter. In an instant, the scene in front of everyone changed, and the surroundings became similar to the Roman Colosseum. Looking at the venue that was a little larger than the Roman Colosseum and the stars hanging in the sky, everyone was shocked. This is an independent space? And it's a real space. Is this the power of Welslana and Meckel? No, I'm afraid it's the power of the king as the god of disobedience. But can the god of disobedience really obtain the power of other gods? Maybe it's the ability of the king as the god of disobedience. After all, the other god slayers have also admitted that a new compatriot has been born. Listening to the whispers of the people behind Paul, Wu-Ming didn't want to explain anything. He couldn't say that he wasn't from this world, but he was judged as the god of disobedience by the world when he came to this world. If you want to fight, I will come here with the king, how about it? Wu-Ming asked. As you wish, King. Paul bowed to Wu Ming. Chapter 162. Wu Ming cancelled the inherent enchantment. After leaving the 6th floor of Nazalik, everyone once again returned to the deserted wasteland. Yo, you are the strange god slayer. Suddenly a young man's voice came. Everyone looked at the source of the voice, and a young man stood there with a long tube on his back. This is Italy's King of Swords, Salvatore Anthony. Erica was afraid that Wu Ming did not know the king, so she deliberately stood behind Wu Ming and quietly told Wu Ming. Wu Ming turned his head and looked at Erica. You are quite loyal, Wu Ming teased. After all, Erica had just joined Wu Ming and she began to think about Wu Ming. Of course, after all, I chose to be loyal to you, Erica said with a smile. Then you will not be disappointed. Wu Ming raised an unruly smile again. Minister Salvatore, you are here. Led by Paul, the people of Black Cross and Red Cross greeted Salvatore Anthony. Well, I heard that a compatriot was born here, and it is a compatriot transformed from the god of disobedience, so I hurried over to take a look. Although he said that he came over to take a look, Salvatore's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. So, the king of disobedience is you. Salvatore looked at Wu Ming again. Yes, it's me. What? Do you want to fight? Wu Ming said directly as soon as he came up. Wu Ming saw that Salvatore seemed to be a rather casual person. To put it simply, Salvatore was a fool. Wait a minute, the king of disobedience, didn't you say? A senior executive behind Paul said nervously. Wu Ming turned his head and glanced at the man. Feng Xen, I won't fight here. With that said, the staff of Anzavulgan in his hand tapped the ground again. Ripples of energy spread out in all directions, instantly enveloping the few people present. The scene changed and several people appeared in the arena that they had just come to. Oh, is this your authority? It's amazing, Salvatore said excitedly. Wu Ming placed the staff of Anziurgan into the golden ripples that appeared behind him and said to Salvatore, This is the place where I used to live. How is it? Not bad, right? It's more than that. It's so cool. Salvatore shouted. It's not just here. There's a vast forest outside. If it's not enough, we can go outside, Wu Ming said as he pointed at the door at the edge of the arena. No, this is enough. With that, Salvatore took out a sword from the long tube behind him. Wu Ming gestured for Erica to bring the others to the auditorium. For a moment, only Wu Ming and Salvatore were left in the huge arena. Wu Ming looked at Salvatore, who was holding the sword, and looked at it carefully. This was a knight's sword without any special characteristics, but Wu Ming could feel pressure from it. So let's get started. As Wu Ming's words fell, Salvatore activated the power of the word spirit. Swear the oath here. I won't allow anything that I can't cut to exist. And this sword is an invincible blade that can cut and cut everything on the ground. In an instant, Salvatore's arm turned into a silver metal arm. At this time, even Wu Ming felt a great sense of crisis. You must not be cut. This was Wu Ming's instinctive thought. I am the strongest. I will capture all the victors. Humans and demons, all enemies. I will defeat all hostile people. That is why I shall destroy all enemies that stand in my way. Wu Ming also chanted the words of the authority activation. It's time, Wu Ming. After speaking, Salvatore instantly rushed at Wu Ming and slashed with his sword. Wu Ming quickly moved his body and dodged the blow. Boom. The ground was instantly cut like tofu. I am the strongest and I hold all the victories in my hands. Be it human or demon, I'm the one who will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. I will destroy any enemy that stands in my way. Giant with supreme divine power, give me your help. The long pointer on the slate in Wu Ming's heart pointed to the 2 o'clock direction, and the slate depicting the giant that supported the sky glowed. As the giant, spirit chanted, Wu Ming's body was covered with a golden phantom. As if he had tens of thousands of tons of divine power, Wu Ming suddenly punched at Salvatore. Boom. Salvatore dodged the punch and hit the ground of the arena. Gravel splashed, and the ground of the entire arena was instantly smashed into a spider web. What an outstanding power, Paul exclaimed in the audience. This is Sir Wu Ming's giant incarnation. It is the result of the combination of Welaslana's authority and Mecker's authority, Erica explained. Knowing that there would be an official magic association to name the Godslayer's authority, Wu Ming had already told Erica the name of his authority. Wu Ming didn't want to get any strange names. Hey, if this hit hits me, it's not a joke. Despite saying so, Salvatore smiled. Your sword is not a joke either, Wu-ming replied. At this moment, Wu-ming had an excited smile on his face. Wu-ming now knew why the God-Slayer was called the Demon King and the Problem Child. Although the God-Slayer was still human, its essence had changed. It was like a beast. Even the most gentle God-Slayer would fight. Once the battle started, the God-Slayer would ignore the surroundings and act completely according to his heart. With such a time bomb, it was no wonder that the magicians were in awe of the God-Slayer. Although Wu-ming's root dragon bloodline would not be affected, these authorities had been transformed by Wu-ming into the accompanying noble phantoms. Therefore Wu-ming was also affected. Continues Salvatore. The short needle on Wu-ming's inner stone plate pointed in the direction of 10 o'clock. Be afraid of those with wings. Evil people and powerful people are afraid of me with wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me. After chanting the words again, Wu-ming's figure disappeared in an instant. Wu-ming appeared above Salvatore in an instant and gave him a punch. What? Salvatore spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was pressed to the ground by Wu-ming. Wu-ming frowned slightly and moved his somewhat uncomfortable body. It seems that the power of the phoenix is not as simple as acceleration. After all, for Wu-ming, a simple acceleration could not make his strengthened body feel uncomfortable. Afterward, Wu-ming looked at Salvatore, who had spat out a lot of blood, and asked, So, do you want to continue, King of Swords? Chapter 163. The next day Wu-ming started breakfast under Erica's greeting. Because of Wu-ming's special permission, and Erica was not a superficial person, the two naturally ate at the same table. Then because of the strange atmosphere Wu-ming couldn't help but ask, Erica, why are you looking at me all the time? Wu-ming looked at Erica's sapphire-like pupils. I can't help it. Although I also thought that you, Wu-ming, could defeat Salvatore, I didn't expect you to defeat him so easily and even knock him unconscious. Wu-ming couldn't help but remember how Wu-ming knocked down Salvatore with Giant and Phoenix yesterday. After Wu-ming asked, Do you want to continue? Wu-ming found that Salvatore had fainted. After all, Wu-ming could launch an attack from above. It could be said that he hit Salvatore's head directly. Even the God Slayer could not remain conscious after being hit in the head with tens of thousands of tons of force. Wu-ming lifted the inherent enchantment, and then a person who claimed to be Salvatore's attendant appeared. Erica told Wu-ming that this was Andre Rivera, Salvatore's confidant. He had the power of a Grand Knight and was the only existence who could rebuke Salvatore. In the information provided by Erica, Salvatore had the title of Deacon Wong in the industry. It could be said that without Andre, Salvatore could only be a warrior instead of the leader of the Southern European Magic Association Alliance. After Andre left the words, Sorry to bother you, King of Disobedience. You will be fine in 2 days. Don't worry. Andre took Salvatore away. Shaking his head, Wu-ming looked at Erica, who was still looking at him. You seem to think that I defeated Salvatore very easily, but it's not that simple. Wu-ming put down the knife and fork and wiped the corners of his mouth. The reason why I can easily defeat Salvatore is that the other party doesn't know my authority, and the other is that I directly knocked him out. Well, actually, the latter part was the main point. But you did win the battle with Salvatore, Erica said with a smile. People often don't care about the process but the result. What's more, the competition before the God Slayers. Please remember this, Lord Wu-ming. Erica was right. Wu-ming also knew that sometimes the result was often more important than the process, but it did not mean that he could be arrogant just because he won against Salvatore. The point is to take him by surprise. There is nothing to say. If Salvatore is prepared, then it will not be so easy to win next time. After that, Wu-ming stood up and walked towards the door. Wu-ming opened the door. I'm going out to study authority for a bit. I'll be back in the afternoon. With that, the sound of the door closing could be heard. Wu-ming took out the staff of Ain's Ergong and entered the enchantment. Lord Wu-ming. As soon as Wu-ming entered, he saw Satya and Seabass kneeling on one knee to salute him. Ah, Wu-ming replied. Now Wu-ming had seen through it. These guardians were loyal to him. Only Demiyugos and Yair Abed could be flexible and would no longer kneel to Wu-ming. Of course, that was only in informal situations. I need to test my newly acquired power. Prepare in the arena on the 6th floor. Yes, Lord Wu-ming. Because of the enchantment, only Satya and Seabass who followed Wu-ming were here, so some work could only be left to them. Soon Wu-ming came to the arena. I am the strongest, the one who holds all victory in my hands. No matter if it's a human or a demon, I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giant with unparalleled divine power, give me your aid. As the words were spoken, the long needle on the stone plate of authority pointed at 2 o'clock. Instantly Wu Ming's surroundings changed. A large amount of golden energy continuously surged out of Wu Ming's body, forming a tall energy giant. The appearance of the energy giant could not be seen clearly, as if it had been pixelated. The giant's muscles were ligated, and only the lower half of its body was covered by a golden energy battle skirt. The rest of its body was naked. Wu Ming floated in the head of the energy giant and looked down. So that's how to use the giant incarnation. Then Wu Ming continued to chant. All evildoers be afraid of my power. Now I will have the majesty of 10 mountains, the power of 100 rivers, and the strength of 1,000 dragons. The majestic me will raise the mark of a fierce dragon. The short needle on the stone plate pointed at 1 o'clock. Instantly the golden energy giant that enveloped Wu Ming changed. A long dragon tail grew out from behind him, and golden energy dragon scales were densely arranged on the giant's naked skin. His hands and feet became fierce and sharp, and his face that couldn't be seen clearly instantly became real, like a dragon's head, with a pair of fierce dragon horns growing out of his head. At this moment, the golden energy giant had completely turned into a golden energy dragon man. Wu Ming tested a few other authorities and the results were different from what he knew. As expected, so the power of authority is not just that. Although these authorities have become my noble phantoms, I still can't completely control them. I still need to train. After all, this was a super high-level spell that Pandora and Epimetheus had set up that affected the whole world. If it was placed in the Shape Moon world, it could be said to be more powerful than magic. Wu Ming could not help but think of the night when he was called the God Slayer. After Wu Ming fell asleep as if he was dreaming, Wu Ming came to a place that was completely white. Wu Ming took 2 steps and stopped. Master Wu Ming, someone used an unknown great spell to bring your spirit to this place. Kalis was a noble phantasm that was connected to Wu Ming's soul, so naturally she could come with Wu Ming. If you want to play tricks, don't blame me for not holding back. Wu Ming said to the air around him. Wah, don't hit me. Suddenly, a seductive female voice was heard. Wu Ming turned his head and saw a cute loli with a child's face and body. Her purple waist-length hair was tied into 2 ponytails with a white hairband behind her back. The accessories on her ears were slightly large purple ball-shaped pendants. Although she did not have a figure at all, she was still wearing a thin white low-cut dress. Even so, she was still very seductive. Wu Ming had never seen a woman with such charm. Wu Ming guessed that other than Ishtar whom he met at Mount Abif, no one else could be compared to her. Come little Wu Ming, I'm your mother. The little loli opened her arms and hugged Wu Ming. No. Wu Ming pushed her head away. Because of her figure, the little loli's hands could not touch Wu Ming's body. Then, the little loli looked at Wu Ming with a heartbroken expression. I'm so sad that you treat your mother like this. Sob, sob. Wu Ming was a little helpless. If you want to sob, you don't have to say it out loud. Then little Wu Ming, can you call me mother? The little loli looked at Wu Ming with an expectant expression. Wu Ming did not care about the topic and asked directly, who are you? Chapter 164. At this time, the purple-haired little loli also became serious. I'm Pandora, Pandora? Wu Ming said while rubbing his chin. Let's just say that Wu Ming's Nathalicris Pandora had nothing to do with this. Wu Ming naturally knew of Pandora, who asked Pandora to be so famous. In Greek mythology, in order to punish the humans who were given fire by Prometheus, the gods specifically ordered Hephaestus, the god of fire, to use the goddess as the foundation of water and earth to create a beautiful woman. This woman's name was Pandora. Every god gave Pandora something, causing Pandora to become a perfect woman. The gods married her to Epimetheus, the younger brother of Prometheus. Then the gods gave Pandora a box. Driven by curiosity, Pandora opened Pandora's box, which released disasters, plagues, and scourges. Although Pandora closed the box in time, the disasters, plagues, and scourges had already escaped. Only the hope given by Athena remained. Then what were your thoughts when you created the god slayer, Pandora? Wu Ming looked at Pandora fiercely and directly began to question Pandora. Pandora was stunned for a moment, then her eyes turned red, tears flowed down and she began to cry. Wah! Looking at Pandora who began to cry, Wu Ming was a little panicked. Wu Ming wanted to directly question Pandora, but Wu Ming did not expect Pandora to cry like this. Wu-ming, who had never made a girl cry, was at a loss. Then Wu-ming could only copy the way he comforted Meiyu, hugging Pandora in his arms and stroking her head. Sorry, I was too serious. I apologize, please forgive me. Wu-ming looked at Pandora rather sincerely. Pandora also looked at Wu-ming with tears in her eyes. Then Pandora somewhat choked and asked, Really? Yes, I'm sorry, it's my fault, please forgive me. Wu-ming hurriedly apologized again. Then Pandora wiped her tears and looked at Wu-ming with red and swollen eyes. Then, can you call me Mom, this? Wu-ming now felt speechless. In the end, Wu-ming compromised. Sister Pandora. Although Pandora was still a little dissatisfied, Wu-ming still said firmly, just call me sister, if you can't then forget it. Alright then, Pandora said. Then Pandora hugged Wu-ming happily and said, little brother is brother, it's my first time. Listening to this incomparably cheerful voice, Wu-ming was a little speechless. He wondered if Pandora's crying just now was an act. Okay Pandora, it's time to answer my question. Wu-ming patted Pandora's back and said, Yes, what question? Pandora let go of Wu-ming with a happy face. What exactly is a god slayer? Why can I, a person who is not from this world, obtain authority? What is the use of authority? The God Slayer is the product of a worldwide curse that Epimetheus and I created together. It is a guardian to help humans through difficult times. Pandora replied. And the reason you can obtain omnipotence is because I want you to become a God Slayer, it's that simple. As for authority, this needs to be judged and used by yourself. Besides, the God Slayer is an existence that can automatically increase power, so, authority is slowly grasped. Pandora's face was full of joy as she spoke while swaying left and right. After becoming a God Slayer, not only will you be immune to attacks below the God level, but you will also have the benefit of automatically increasing your strength. As long as you fight, your strength will rapidly increase. Then Pandora touched Wu-ming's cheek and said, as long as you fight, you will definitely become stronger. Even an ordinary person without any fighting strength will have the will to fight the moment they become a God Slayer. You have to cherish this authority well. In order to instill the power of the God Slayer into you, I spent a lot of effort. Then Wu-ming's consciousness was sent back to his body. Until now. Wu-ming removed the authority, and the light of the stone plate dimmed. What an irresponsible sister, I haven't finished asking. Then Wu-ming looked at Sebastian and Zaisha standing beside him and said, you have adapted to the authority. I've more or less adapted to my authority. Sebastian, Zaisha, come with me. Yes, Lord Wu-ming. Yes, Lord Wu-ming. In the outside world, Wu-ming suddenly appeared somewhere with Sebastian and Zaisha. Zaisha, Wu-ming suddenly said. Yes, Lord Wu-ming. Zaisha walked to Wu-ming's side with a charming expression. I have a mission for you, Wu-ming said to Zaisha. Then Wu-ming had Zaisha lean over and Wu-ming read the mission to her. Yes, Lord Wu-ming. This subordinate will not let you down. Because Wu-ming's breath touched Zaisha's ear when he spoke, her face was flushed, and she spoke with a trembling voice like a young girl in love. Wu-ming smiled helplessly. I thought that after the sublimation of her origin, Zaisha wouldn't be so. Her personality wouldn't change. Remember, don't kill anyone if you can. Although your weakness has been uprooted, it's still best not to cause trouble. Yes, I understand, Lord Wu-ming. Zaisha bowed, then turned into a black shadow and left. Sebastian. Wu-ming looked at Sebastian. Here. Sebastian placed his right hand on his heart and bowed to Wu-ming. Stay by my side and be my butler. Yes, Lord Wu-ming. Although Zaisha and Sebastian had undergone the baptism of their origin, they did not seem to have changed at all. Zaisha was still wearing her purplish-black princess dress with a cake-like hem. Sebastian was still wearing his black butler suit. It could be said that neither of them had changed in terms of appearance or temperament. However, Wu-ming knew very well that the two of them could no longer be compared to their previous selves. It could be said that Zaisha and Sebastian were the strongest people in Nasalic apart from Wu-ming. Even the uncontrollable hidden trump card of Nasalic, libido, might not be able to defeat Zaisha and Sebastian. That's all for now. I'll bring you to meet my new subordinate. Then Wu-ming brought Sebastian to the villa provided by Erica. As soon as he pushed open the door, Wu-ming heard an extremely pleasant voice. Chapter 165. Wu-ming pushed the door open and entered. What he saw was Erica entertaining an exceptionally beautiful girl. The girl looked about 20 years old. She had long golden wavy hair shining with brilliance. She looked very beautiful and her skin was white and delicate. Her clothes were matched with a white coat, a short knitted dress and pants under the coat and black boots. You must be the seventh god slayer, Sir Wuming? I am Alice Louise of Nefar. Nice to meet you, Sir Wuming. Alice spoke in a calm tone, coupled with Alice's perfume-like noble temperament. Wuming couldn't help but take a second look. Ahem, Sir Wuming, it's almost time for you to answer Princess Alice's question, Erica said with some displeasure. After all, such a great beauty is in front of you every day, but you choose to look at someone else, although that person is indeed beautiful. I see. It's nice to meet you, Your Royal Highness Princess Alice. Wuming said with an elegant aristocrat's salute. In the information provided by Erica, there was this Princess Alice. Duke Godding's daughter, known as Princess Alice to the outside world, became the Speaker of the Sage Council of Greenwich at the age of 16. Now she stepped down from the position of the Speaker of the Sage Council of Greenwich and was the current special advisor. Because of her extremely high magic talent, she was also known as the White Witch G. Speaking of this White Witch G, she was amazing. She was a genius girl who could fight the God Slayer with wisdom and courage. The British God Slayer Alexander Gascoigne was known as the son of the Black Prince Yarek. The Black Prince was once driven out of the United Kingdom by the White Witch G, Princess Alice and Erica's uncle, Paul Brantley. Because his authority was inclined to support and character, the Black Prince did not entangle too much with Alice and Paul but chose to retreat. Not only did this bring benefits to Alice, but it also gave Paul, a Grand Knight, an unsurpassable reputation. The story of the Witch G and the Grand Knight working together to fight against the God Slayer and successfully driving him away was widely known by magicians. It was also because of this that Alice was called the Princess and Paul became the commander of the Black Cross. As a God Slayer himself, Wuming naturally knew how terrifying a God Slayer was. Even if the Black Prince Yarek, the God Slayer, didn't have a strong combat ability, he shouldn't be underestimated. Moreover, it was mainly Alice's wisdom that played a role. Paul was only a supporting force. To be able to use her wits and the power of a Grand Knight to chase away a God Slayer was already a testament to Alice's shocking intelligence. Coupled with her heaven-shaking beauty, Wuming couldn't help but look at her in a new light. So what is Princess Alice doing here? Wuming began to ask Alice, going straight to the point. At this point, Alice felt a little awkward. Actually, I'm here to stop your duel with the Sword King. Alice received news that the seventh king had been born in Italy. Soon after, Alice received news that the Sword King was on his way to Italy. Moreover, the seventh king still stayed in Italy and did not leave. Alice, who had super high wisdom, immediately figured out why the other party was in a hurry to Italy. With Alice's understanding of the stupid Sword King, he must have gone to spar with the new king. Moreover, when Alice was about to use Ghost Body to go to Italy, she was discovered by her housekeeper and nanny, Erickson. So, under Erickson's strong opposition and physical control, Alice was kept in the United Kingdom. Although it's a little late, I still want to thank you for not causing irreparable damage to the surroundings because of your duel with Salvatore. Alice said with a slight smile. The news that the King of Disobedience Wuming and the Sword King Salvatore Tony had a duel in the King of Disobedience's own barrier and one spread like wildfire. The news was spread by the magicians of the Black Cross, and it seemed that the Sword King also intended to do so. In short, because of the indulgent behavior of the Sword King, magicians all over the world knew that the new king defeated the Sword King. This made Princess Alice, who had just arrived in Italy and Europe from the United Kingdom, very helpless. With the idea that she had already come out, in fact she was tired of staying at home, and Alice also wanted to see the new king, so the scene of Erica entertaining Princess Alice appeared. Sitting on the sofa, Wuming couldn't help laughing and said, "So, our famous Princess Alice just got tired of staying at home and ran away from home?" "No, I didn't run away from home, it's just that Erickson is too strict and keeps me in the house," Alice said with a little blush. In this regard, Wuming just smiled. "Well, since you are out, please enjoy the outside world. I will let Erica follow you," Wuming said. Erica asked Wuming in confusion, "Then may I ask who this old man is, Wuming?" In these days of living with Wuming, Erica had almost figured out Wuming. It could be said that if she wasn't very sure that Wuming was indeed a god slayer, Erica wouldn't believe that the new king had such a good temper. The new king didn't mind at all if she called him by his name. Hearing Erica ask about Sebastian, Wuming began to introduce him. This is my butler, Sebastian Dean. Then there was a moment of silence. Erica asked helplessly. That wasn't what she wanted to know. Alice also had a curious look on her face. If I have to say, Sebastian is my power, Wu Ming said. Wu Ming waved at Sebastian, motioning for him to say a few words. Greetings, ladies. I am Lord Wu Ming's butler, Sebastian. Please advise me. Sebastian put his right hand on his heart, and his left hand was close to his trousers, and bowed slightly with a serious face. Speaking of which, I remember that one also has this kind of tamed monster power. Alice suddenly said. You must be referring to the Queen of the Faceless, the daughter of the Black Prince Yarok, Erica said. Wu Ming also remembered the power recorded in Black Prince Yarok's information. The ability to summon Melusin, the legendary two-tailed mermaid and half-human half-snake goddess, as a tamed monster. The summoned Melusin had her own consciousness because of the goddess herself, so she had high wisdom. That was undoubtedly what Sebastian wanted. Chapter 166. Thinking of this, Wu Ming shook his head and said, Even so, Sebastian is not a familiar. After looking at Erica, Wu Ming looked at Alice and continued. In terms of strength alone, Sebastian is almost comparable to any of the Godslayers. As soon as these words came out, Erica and Alice were a little surprised. The reason why the Godslayers were called Godslayers was that in addition to having the authority to kill the god of death, they also had a super high level of physical defense. The Godslayer had a magic immune body that was immune to divine attacks, and the body of the Godslayer also had super high endurance in terms of defense against physical damage. At the very least, they would not be injured under a series of conditions that were fatal to humans, such as being stabbed with a knife and jumping down from a high-rise building. As for large-caliber sniper rifles, it was hard to say. After all, no one dared to use a sniper rifle to experiment on the Godslayer, and the magicians disdained and dared not use sniper rifles on the Godslayer. In case the Godslayer did not die, then they would face a punishment more terrifying than the catastrophe and the god of disobedience. No country or organization would be able to bear such a burden. When the Far East Island invaded China in the mid-19th century, they contradicted the second Godslayer, the Wuxia King of China, Luo Hao. As a result, the Wuxia King single-handedly attacked their home base, grabbed their official government leaders, and directly caused the failure of the invasion war. At that time they used the top magic weapons at that time, and the power of the entire country could not stop a Godslayer. Since then no one had underestimated the Godslayer. Even the kindest Madame Aisha, who did not want to fight, could not be underestimated. This was because the Godslayer had the power to cause trouble. Once he caused trouble, it would be as troublesome as several Godslayers combined. Alice and Paul could join forces to repel the Godslayer, Black Prince Yarok. Firstly, the series of events that Black Prince Yarok had done were too excessive, causing the dissatisfaction of almost all the magicians in Europe. Secondly, Yarok claimed that he was different from other Godslayers and was a person who fought with his brain. In addition, he lost to Alice in wisdom, which led to Black Prince Yarok's departure. It could be said that if Yarok really wanted to deal with Alice and the others, he would do it even if it was troublesome. It could only be said that Alice had already figured out the Black Prince's personality. She knew that if she could outsmart him, he would not continue to pester her for the sake of his dignity. If it had been any other Godslayer, they would have charged at Alice with their own power, even if they had lost in terms of intelligence. Sir Wu Ming, you are exaggerating. Sebastian bowed to Wu Ming. Wu Ming had told Sebastian about this world when they were practicing their authority in the underground tomb of Nassarik, so Sebastian knew about the god of disobedience and the Godslayer in this world. Don't underestimate yourself, Sebastian. Wu Ming looked at the humble Sebastian and continued, You should know that you are now my subordinate god. Even if you can't defeat me, you might still be able to win against someone who can't restrain you. Wu Ming was right. After the baptism of origin, Sebastian could now become a dragon. Not only that, but he was also a dragon close to Wu Ming, which contained a trace of the power of origin. As long as it was not the kind of authority that could slay a dragon, basically no one could kill Sebastian, who had a strong body. Speaking of dragon attributes, Wu Ming's attributes had to be talked about. Without the dragon attribute added by the servant, Wu Ming's origin, dragon bloodline was no longer a dragon attribute. The origin dragon was just an addition of the word dragon to its appearance and name. As a creature born from the world's origin, how could there be any power that could restrain it? Therefore the origin dragon itself was Wu Ming's greatest advantage. A strong body that surpassed everything else, adaptability from all time and space, and no creature or device that could restrain it. If one had to say, the black mud with the smell of Wu Ming's hometown that restrained Wu Ming was the weapon that restrained Wu Ming. You're right, Lord Wu Ming. I was stupid, Sebastian said. Wu Ming waved his hand and said, it's not your fault. After all, you just obtained this power. You can feel it after using it once. Forget it, Sebastian. Go and prepare dinner, Wu Ming said with a headache. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. Sebastian left. Then Wu Ming looked at Alice and Erica with a look of disdain. This is really troublesome. Anyway, you can think of Sebastian's origin however you want. You can think of him as my subordinate god or as my power. That's it, Wu Ming said with a little temper. Then he leaned back on the sofa. Erica and Alice looked at each other and then they both smiled. You're really like a child, Wu Ming, Erica teased. I didn't expect Lord Wu Ming to have such a cute side, Alice said. Because Alice and Erica were old friends, Erica had told Alice about Wu Ming's easygoing personality, which was why Alice was so presumptuous. Wu Ming looked at the two of them with dead fish eyes. Since he stopped using the body of a servant, Wu Ming's temperament had changed back to that of a teenager. Even though he had been active in Connaught, Britain, and Uruk for nearly 50 years, Wu Ming still had the mentality of a teenager. Actually, if one really had to say, Wu Ming could be considered a problem child. His time as a servant was only slightly affected by his rank and origin at that time. By the way, Alice, you should have other purposes for coming to me, right? Wu Ming ignored the two's teasing and suddenly changed the topic. Alice and Erica also stopped teasing. Then Alice said to Wu Ming, Sama, do you know about Gorgon's stone? Gorgon's stone? Wu Ming muttered. Then Wu Ming asked, is it the Gorgon in Greek mythology? Yes. Alice said, then looked at Erica, motioning Erica to answer for her. Erica nodded and said, this is the case, Wu Ming. Alice once made a prophecy about Gorgon's stone, and the result was not good. When there is no moon and stars, darkness will cover the earth. At that time human beings will not be able to survive, Erica said. Alice is a witch with the ability of spirit vision. Her prophecies have never failed. Wu Ming sneered at that. So, how about I break the prophecy this time? Chapter 167. Judging from the prophecy, this seems to be the power of the god of disobedience. There are only a few gods who are related to Gorgon's stone. Wu Ming held his chin with both hands as he looked at Alice and Erica. The main ones are the three Gorgon sisters, Medusa, Stheno, and Euryale. However, I don't think the three Gorgon sisters who've been belittled as monsters would have the desire to destroy the world. Subsequently, Wu Ming said casually, anyway, give me the Gorgon stone now. I'll settle this. Alice and Erica looked at each other for a moment, then nodded. At night, Wu Ming was alone in his study room. His desk was filled with books, and the books on the bookshelf were different from before. Erica had replaced all the books here. They were all books about myths and legends. Meanwhile, the books on Wu Ming's desk were all about Gorgon. Wu Ming picked up the Gorgon stone in his hand and studied it carefully for a while. The Gorgon stone was an obsidian metal with a portrait of a Gorgon engraved on it. Wu Ming could not help but exclaim as he looked at the Gorgon stone that looked like Medusa's head, this doesn't seem like an ordinary god relic. Wu Ming had seen a god relic once before he became a god slayer. It was the young man he had met when he first arrived in this world, the grassy guardian. The slate in his hand was a spellbook, which was a god relic. Wu Ming would not misjudge his senses after becoming a god slayer. Because of that, Wu Ming could clearly sense that the power contained in the Gorgon stone was not as simple as it seemed. Just like the godhead of a god. Wu Ming said calmly. Wu Ming, who had the golden sword, could feel that the power of the Gorgon stone gave him the same feeling as when Wu Ming used the golden sword to cut through Wellislana's godhood. I wonder if the golden sword has any effect on the materialized divinity. Wu Ming stroked his chin and shook his head. I don't dare to do anything. Let's first record the knowledge about Gorgon. Then Wu Ming picked up a book on the desk and opened it, saying, Please, Kalas. Yes, master. The dragon horn on Wu Ming's head flashed, and like a scanner, a golden light shone on the book in Wu Ming's hand. Almost a few seconds later, Kalas put away the scanning ray. Master, do you want me to transfer the knowledge to you now? Kalas asked. Just transfer it directly. After all, time is running out, Wu Ming said and then closed his eyes. After a few seconds Wu Ming opened his eyes. No matter how I look at it, I feel that it's great to have you here, Kalas. Wu Ming smiled. That's just because you're lazy, master? Kalas said with a helpless tone. After all, Wu Ming had a photographic memory now. However, with Kalas here, why would Wu Ming waste time and effort to slowly read these myths by himself? Well, doesn't this show how important you are, my dear Kalas? Hurry up and continue to the next book. Try to enter all the knowledge about Gorgon before you go to bed. Yes, yes. However, no matter how he listened to it, Wu Ming felt that Kalas's voice had a hint of shyness. Wu Ming and Kalas kept repeating the cycle of scanning, transferring knowledge and receiving knowledge. The next day Wu Ming, who was sitting at the dining table, yawned. Erica couldn't help but say, "You didn't really read myths the whole night yesterday, did you?" Erica couldn't help but think of what Wu Ming had said after his conversation with Alice and Erica the day before. "Erica, please send the books about myths to my study. Gorgon first, please." Then Erica complained and contacted the staff of the Black Cross. They removed the historical records and information about European magic in Wu Ming's study overnight and replaced them with books about myths. Of course, because there were more books, Erica put many books in other rooms, waiting for Wu Ming to finish reading the books in the study before replacing them. Although Erica complained when she contacted the Black Cross, the staff of the Black Cross, including its commander, Paul, said with a smile, "Compared to the other Godslayers, Lord Wu Ming is really easy to serve. That's right, as long as he didn't cause trouble everywhere, not to mention all the books about myths. Even if Wu Ming wanted to be the commander of the Black Cross, Paul would agree unconditionally." When Wu Ming learned these words from Erica, Wu Ming's expression was quite strange. Wu Ming couldn't help but think, are the Godslayers such a headache for magician? Although it was hard to believe the Godslayers were such a headache for others. No matter how honest Wu Ming was, no matter how much he didn't stir up trouble, no one would be able to put their hearts at ease. After all, among the 7 Godslayers, Madame Aisha, who was known as the one who didn't want to fight the most, also had the power of a natural disaster. If she was accidentally implicated, she would be even more terrifying than the oldest Godslayer, Marquis Waban. While eating, Wu Ming said to Erica, "It's no big deal. I have Kalas. I just stayed up for a short while yesterday." Wu Ming had long told Erica about Kalas, so Wu Ming was not afraid that Erica didn't understand. But Alice, a young man who had just come into contact with Wu Ming, was quite interested in this Kalas that Wu Ming mentioned. At this moment, the golden dragon horns on Wu Ming's head appeared, and he said, "Actually, to put it bluntly, Master is just lazy in bed." "That's where you're wrong." Wu Ming continued after eating a mouthful of rice. "Now I realize that the bed is the greatest invention of mankind." "Kalas won't believe an excuse," Kalas retorted. Alice watched the conversation between the master and servant with interest. She then asked Wu Ming, "Master Wu Ming, do you think? Master Wu Ming, does Miss Kalas belong to you as well?" Wu Ming answered after taking a sip of milk, "You can put it that way. You can think of Kalas as a super high-level god relic that has its own consciousness." In reality, Wu Ming was right. Wasn't Kalas, who was connected to Wu Ming's soul and had become his relic, Wu Ming's authority? Since he was known as the god of disobedience, wasn't his tool a god relic? "Master Wu Ming, you're such an interesting person." Alice smiled. It could not be helped. It was impossible for Wu Ming not to be special. After all, he was a godslayer known as the god of disobedience. Chapter 168. Wu Ming separated from Erica and Alice after breakfast. Wu Ming asked Erica to take Alice around Italy, and Wu Ming specifically told Erica not to come to him. However, in order to make a fair deal, Erica asked Wu Ming, "Please don't involve the people." Wu Ming smiled helplessly. "Don't worry, I'm not one of those battle maniacs. When I fight, I forget about the surroundings. Besides, I have an inherent barrier and I will put the battlefield inside the inherent barrier." Wu Ming still clearly remembered Erica's suspicious eyes. After that, Wu Ming came to a small island in the Mediterranean Sea. Crash! Listening to the sound of the wind blowing the waves, Wu Ming couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then Wu Ming took out Gorgon's stone. Although I can seal Gorgon's stone with a sealing technique, it's better to solve it in one go. After that, Wu Ming stretched out his hand and chanted the spell. Create great item, advanced item creation. With the condensation of magical particles, a lightning-shaped blue dagger appeared in Wu Ming's hand. That was Caster Media's noble artifact, Rule Breaker. Wu Ming gently touched Gorgon's stone with Rule Breaker. In an instant, the Banshee's eyes on Gorgon's stone glowed scarlet, and a powerful magical power burst out. That's all right. Looking at Gorgon's stone, which had completely broken the seal, Rosin said. When Wu Ming got Gorgon's stone, there was a noble artifact seal set by Black Cross on it. Although the seal was broken, it still had some effect. At this moment, in order to avoid trouble, Wu Ming directly broke the seal. Wu Ming stretched out his hand again and took out Staff of Anziergen from the golden ripple on his side. He put Staff of Anziergen beside him, and Staff of Anziergen automatically floated in the air, rotating slowly. Next, we just have to wait, Wu Ming said, sitting cross-legged on the ground and closing his eyes. When it was almost night, Wu Ming felt that Gorgon's stone began to heat up, which was proof that its owner was about to arrive. Wu Ming opened his eyes and said, "Is it coming?" Wu Ming said as he watched the darkness engulf the island like a black cloud. "Is this the starless night?" Wu Ming broke the seal on Gorgon's stone in the morning. Although he didn't know why the other party chose to do it at night instead of during the day, Wu Ming could roughly guess. It should be a god related to darkness. Because Wu Ming was on a small island, there was no landing point other than where Wu Ming was, so Athena floated in the air. "So it's you, the strange person who has my snake," Athena said. Wu Ming looked at Athena and couldn't help but smile. She had the body of a primary school student, short silver hair, black snake-like vertical pupils, a white long-sleeved shirt and a yellow sleeveless sweater, a black short skirt, blue knee-length stockings, brown leather shoes, and a blue braided hat that looked like a beast's ear. No matter how Wu Ming looked at her, she looked like a cute primary school student. Of course, that was if she didn't have a huge amount of mana. "My name is Athena. You are both my compatriot and my natural enemy. Tell me your name." Athena's vertical pupils stared coldly at Wu Ming. "Just call me Wu Ming, Athena," Wu Ming said with a smile, and at the same time he released his mana. "You're an interesting fellow. Even though I would like to know why you, who share the same origin as me, would become my enemy, I'll retreat for now since it's you," Athena said as she sensed something amiss the moment Wu Ming unleashed his magical powers. Then the darkness around the island began to retreat, and Athena also left in another direction. "I will leave my snake with you for the time being, someone who shares the same origin." This made Wu Ming a little confused. "It can't be because of my identity as the god of disobedience in this world," Wu Ming said after thinking for a moment. Although Wu Ming was still Wu Ming was branded as the god of disobedience when he came to this world. Of course, this brand did not bind Wu Ming, it just gave him another identity. Wu Ming did not care at first. But now, it seemed that this identity of the god of disobedience was a little special. Even Athena knew about him. When Wu Ming released his mana, Wu Ming saw the expression on Athena's face. It was obviously a look of surprise when she saw someone familiar or when she knew about Wu Ming's existence. "Seriously, giving me such a headache every day. Gaia and Alea are like this, even this world without any restraints is like this," Wu Ming complained helplessly. Wu Ming could not help but remember that Gaia and Alea created a historical story for Wu Ming in order to make him a servant of the human faction. That history was not fake, but the restraints threw Wu Ming into a historical story. To put it bluntly, it was just giving Wu Ming another identity. Just like Wu Ming in this world, a stone thrown into the lake would definitely cause the lake to change. Wu Ming even suspected that this was a collusion between the worlds. Shaking his head, Wu Ming did not think about it anymore. He put away the inherent barrier in the staff of Anziergen that he had set up in the outside world. Wu Ming instinctively opened a portal and walked in. In the villa, Erica and Alice sat on the sofa, drinking their respective drinks and chatting intermittently. "It's already night time and there's still no news of Lord Wu Ming," Alice said worriedly. "Wu Ming should have moved the battlefield to his own barrier, and maybe he didn't come?" Erica said. "By the way, Erica, do you think Lord Wu Ming can win?" Alice asked. Erica did not care about this and said confidently, "Winning is not a problem." Alice was a little puzzled. Why is Erica so sure? Erica took a sip of coffee and said, "That's because he's the king I have to serve. As a subordinate, how can I not believe in my master?" Alice was a little unhappy. What a cunning answer. Then she said, "By the way, Lord Wu Ming is really miraculous. A disobedient god actually became a godslayer. This is something that has never happened since ancient times." At this moment, Alice was suddenly stunned. Light flowed in her eyes as if she was playing something. "Alice?" Erica noticed that something was wrong with Alice. She quickly put down the coffee in her hand, stood up, and walked toward Alice. Could it be? Spirit vision has been triggered. Erica was indeed a genius of the Red Cross and Black Cross. She immediately noticed Alice's current state. At this moment, a black-purple portal opened and Wu Ming walked out of it. Chapter 169. Wu Ming walked out of the portal and saw Erica standing next to Alice, who was in a daze. What's wrong with Alice? Wu Ming asked Erica. Erica shook her head and said, she's fine. Alice merely triggered her spirit vision. Spirit vision had two modes, active and passive. The prophecy of the starless moon in Gorgon Stone was precisely what Alice had predicted by activating her spirit vision. Clearly, her spirit vision was passive this time. Wu Ming walked to Erica's side. Looking at the dazed Alice, he mumbled, "Is there a new prophecy?" It was also at this moment that Alice's eyes regained their luster. This meant that her spirit vision had ended. How is it, Alice? Did something new happen? Erica asked as she bent down in front of Alice as soon as it was over. Alice glanced at Erica, then looked at Wu Ming. Lord Wu Ming? Alice looked at Wu Ming in a daze. Seeing that something was wrong with Alice, Wu Ming hurriedly shouted, "Alice! Alice!" As if Wu Ming had been awakened, Alice's body swayed violently. As if Wu Ming had short-circuited, Alice's body became unstable as if she was about to disappear. Just as she was about to fall, Wu Ming instantly appeared beside Alice and hugged her. Lord Wu Ming, I'm sorry. It seems that I won't be able to tell you a new prophecy here, Alice said as she lay weakly in Wu Ming's arms. Is it the side effect of spirit vision that's causing your spirit body to become unstable? Wu Ming asked. Don't worry. After saying that, Wu Ming closed his eyes. On the stone plate in his heart, the long needle instantly moved to the 12 o'clock position. It was a mage wearing a long robe whose face couldn't be seen clearly. The stone plate lit up. Then Wu Ming seemed to have obtained a supreme divine power. His body flashed with a golden light, and his eyes emitted a golden light. Like a big golden light bulb, Erica and Alice in Wu Ming's arms couldn't help but squint their eyes. Is this Lord Wu Ming's power? Alice, who was in Wu Ming's arms, asked weakly. Yes, this is the mage's incarnation, which evolved from Wu Ming's youth's incarnation. The young man's incarnation had a powerful power of speech, it could bless human beings, gain power from human beings, and it also had a very important thing, blessing. Naturally, the magician that evolved from the youth also had the ability to grant protection to others. It's coming, Alice. After saying that, Wu Ming's face slowly moved towards Alice. Wait, no. Wu Ming-sama. Alice, who had never experienced such a thing, closed her eyes with a red face. Then, just when Alice thought that Wu Ming was going to kiss her, there was nothing wrong with her lips, only her forehead. Alice opened her eyes and saw Wu Ming's forehead tightly pressed against hers. Wu Ming's big golden eyes looked at Alice with a hint of a smile. Alice was a little embarrassed, and her face instantly became more rosy. Focus, close your eyes, I'm going to give you a blessing. Wu Ming reminded her. Yes. Alice said with a red face. Then Alice closed her eyes and began to receive Wu Ming's blessing. A steady stream of huge magical power was transmitted to Alice's body through her forehead. In an instant, the magical power was transformed into vitality, replenishing Alice's weak body. Alice felt as if she was soaking in a hot spring. Her surroundings were filled with warmth, and gradually, Alice had the idea of falling asleep. After Wu Ming felt that it was enough, his forehead left Alice's forehead and removed the mage's incarnation. Looking at Alice, who had a happy smile on her face and closed her eyes, Wu Ming patted Alice's cheek and said, Wake up, don't fall asleep. Alice suddenly opened her eyes, looked at Wu Ming with some embarrassment and said, Sorry, Lord Wu Ming, the feeling just now was too comfortable, and I accidentally indulged in it. Wu Ming was a little curious and then said, Was it that comfortable? After all, this was the first time Wu Ming used the power of blessing on others, and he was not very familiar with it. Maybe my divine aura was mixed in. Wu Ming thought so. Then Wu Ming continued, Because your body is not your real body now, I did not give you too much blessing. This blessing can last for about 7 days, and it can be said that there is no problem at all to maintain your ghost body. Thank you very much, Lord Wu Ming. Alice smiled sweetly and looked at Wu Ming. Wu Ming shook his head, indicating that there was no need to be so polite, and then continued, In a few days I will go to England. At that time I will personally add a longer blessing to your body. I believe that if this is the case, you should be able to use your own body to walk around, and you don't need the ghost body. Wu Ming's words made Alice fall into deep thought. Being able to walk freely in various areas was something that Alice had never thought of. After all, Alice's body was weak because of the negative effects of her powerful talent. This was not a disease and it was basically untreatable. Just as Wu Ming looked at the pondering Alice, the person next to him was a little unhappy about being ignored. I say it's about time for you to let go, Erica said with a fake smile, but everyone could hear the anger in Alice's voice. At this moment, Wu Ming and Alice realized that the two were still hugging each other. Alice screamed and quickly broke free from Wu Ming's two big hands. Wu Ming took the initiative to let go of Alice and smiled awkwardly. Ahem, although Your Highness Alice's body is fine, your spirit hasn't fully recovered. Your Highness Alice, would you like to take a rest? Erica said after coughing. Spirit vision consumed not only magic power but also the caster's spirit power. This was also the reason why many witches fainted after divination. It was because the things they prophesied were too huge. The huge here didn't refer to the body but to the status. Wu Ming also nodded in agreement, then looked at Alice. Alice shook her head and said, I'm fine. I think it's better to tell Lord Wu Ming the new prophecy as soon as possible. And after Lord Wu Ming added a blessing to me, I feel unusually excited. I don't feel the fatigue from using spirit vision at all. With that, Alice jumped up and down like a little girl to show that she was completely fine. Seeing that Alice had said so, Wu Ming and Erica didn't insist. Chapter 170. Alice, Wu Ming and Erica sat on the sofa together. Then Yali Anna served drinks for the three of them. Wu Ming and Erica both looked at Alice quietly, waiting for her to say the prophecy. The starless night was broken by the legendary dragon. The earth withered, the sea dried up, and the world fell into a dead silence. The divine saber and the holy sword collided, and the hero and the demon king confronted each other, Alice said. I saw a brave man with a divine sword and a demon king with a holy sword in Japan. Every blow had supreme power. The sky was torn apart, the earth was torn apart, and the sea was burned to dry up. As if she had remembered the scene she saw in the prophecy, Alice's body trembled a little as she said. Wu Ming grabbed Alice's hand. As if she had found a life-saving straw, Alice calmed down. Don't think about that for now, Alice. You saw a scene that was too long in the timeline or too high level. It's not something you can bear right now, Wu Ming comforted her. Then, Wu Ming, Alice and Erica began to think about the meaning of this paragraph. Let's see how the legendary dragon broke the starless night. The starless night should refer to Athena. Then does this legendary dragon refer to Wu Ming? Erica said. Wu Ming shook his head and said, not necessarily. Athena came today but she might not have the confidence to attack me. After I said something to Athena, she left on her own. At this moment, Erica said excitedly, wait, you didn't kill Athena? At first, when Wu Ming returned, Erica didn't ask him if he had killed Athena because of Alice. However, Erica still had confidence in Wu Ming, so she didn't ask again. Looking at the agitated Erica, Wu Ming smiled. Isn't that normal? I'm not in urgent need of authority to increase my strength, and Athena shows no signs of declaring war on me. Isn't this a good result? Wu Ming found that the power of Welslana and Mekl was enough for the time being. It should be said that even if it was only Welslana's power, after being sublimated into Wu Ming's noble phantasm, Wu Ming could be regarded as an existence that could do whatever he wanted. As such, there was no need to overly pursue power. Wu Ming was an origin dragon. As long as he was accelerated by external forces or waited until he reached adulthood, Wu Ming's power would naturally undergo a qualitative change. Pursuing power was nothing more than an act of Wu Ming to protect himself during his childhood. There was no need to overdo it. Erica sighed and said unhappily, forget it, you're the king. You call the shots. Looking at the unhappy Erica, Wu Ming comforted her. Don't worry, Athena is now lacking a divine spark. Even if she stays on the ground, it won't affect time. Alice covered her mouth and laughed. Lord Wu Ming is really magnanimous. This is called confidence. Wu Ming shrugged. Ahem. So, if the legendary dragon isn't Wu Ming, then who is it? Everyone pondered. The legendary dragon should be referring to myself. Breaking the starless night shouldn't be referring to what happened today. After all, Athena retreated of her own accord and didn't fight. At present, the Gorgon stone is still in my hands. The legendary dragon breaking the starless night is likely to happen in the future. Wu Ming thought. Let's not talk about this for now. Have you noticed that the demon king with the holy sword is likely to be the god slayer? Because his speculation was almost done, Wu Ming began to change the topic. According to the saying, the confrontation between the hero and the demon king, if the demon king refers to the god slayer, then the hero with the divine sword refers to the god of disobedience, Erica said. And the series of disasters mentioned later are likely to be caused by the descent of the god of disobedience, but it can't be ruled out that it was caused by the god slayer, Alice added. The problem now is the identity of the hero with the divine sword and the demon king with the holy sword. It's easy to find the god slayer with the holy sword. After all, there are only 7 god slayers. But it's hard to say about the god of disobedience with the divine sword. In the myths, there are many gods who use the divine sword as their weapon, Alice said with a headache. Everyone pondered. After a moment, Wu Ming spoke. Let's not think about this for now. We can't figure it out now. At worst, we'll just deal with it when it comes. Wu Ming. Lord Wu Ming. Erica and Alice grumbled. That's enough. Even if the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. If you keep thinking so hard, you'll grow old. As he spoke, Wu Ming stood up. In a few days, Erica and I will send you back to England. You can think about these things then. After that, Wu Ming left the living room. After Wu Ming left, Erica sighed. He really isn't worried at all. Erica didn't know whether to be happy or distressed. Should she be happy that her king was confident or distressed that she was too ambitious? Alice smiled faintly and said, Isn't this good? As a king, you have to have confidence. This is also the charm of a king. That's because Your Highness Alice has a good mentality. You're the Princess Alice who fought a battle of wits with Black Prince Yarek and even drove him out of England in the end. That's all thanks to the help of Miss Erica's uncle, Lord Paul, said Alice. You're too serious, Your Highness Alice. You better go and get some rest. After all, mental exhaustion can't be eliminated. Erica stood up and was about to send Alice back to her room. I know, Miss Erica. I'll go by myself. By the way, Lord Wu Ming is really outstanding. You must seize the opportunity. After teasing Erica, Alice walked up the stairs and toward her room. Erica blushed but didn't say anything. Seize the opportunity? On the other side, Wu Ming sat at his desk and picked up the book that recorded the myths again. It seems that I have to finish recording the myths as soon as possible, or the sword of spiritual speech will become useless, said Wu Ming. After learning that the god of disobedience who caused the starless night was Athena, Wu Ming had thought that he had to record the myths in his spare time. In this world where the god of disobedience often appeared, he couldn't do anything without a store of knowledge. Compared to other authorities, although the sword of spiritual speech hadn't been upgraded or enhanced, it was still Wu Ming's trump card. After all, this sword of spiritual speech was too unfair. As long as one knew the stories of the gods, they could seal the gods' abilities. The warrior authority, which had been upgraded to a noble artifact, could naturally be used on heroic spirit followers. It was a great weapon. How could he not cherish it? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.